You are listening. You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Yeah! I'm not Goku. I'm Jacadero. Welcome to the Better Medicine's Shoot the Breeze podcast. Woo! It's episode 201. Once again, I'm Jacadero, filling in for Goku. On today's Bitter Medicine episode of Shoot the Breeze, episode 201, we have topics ranging from AI, artificial intelligence, and also working social strategies in the continent. Before we get into the rest of the show, let's go ahead and have you guys recognize who we are and maybe, just maybe, how you guys can be a part of what we got going on here.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where Black problems are addressed with Black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
All right. Once again, I am Jacadero filling in for Brother Goku here on Shoot the Breeze, episode 201, part of the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Let's go ahead and let's greet some of the viewers out there. We got our matron. She says, greetings, everyone. Greetings. What's up, matron? How you doing? Pro-Black Perspective says, peace, peace. What's going on? What's going on? War Drum, RBG. What's up, RBG? Pro-Black Perspective says he can only stay an hour. That's fine. As long as you're here, that's all that matters. Trigger Happy says, welcome back. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. You know what I'm saying? Come on. You know, whenever I get a job, it's always good to be back, man. Oh, make sure that you reach and hit the link if you want to become a panelist on the show. We invite each and every one of you guys, if you guys want to be a panelist, please share your thoughts. And also join the Discord. That's right, the Bitter Medicine Podcast Discord. It's free, and there's only a few individuals and members that we have. If we want to build a better Africa for each and every one of us, it takes each and every one of us. As far as the topics for today, we have topics ranging from AI, relationships, as well as working class conditions in the African continent. Let's go ahead and get into our first topic. And before we do, we want to shout out once again Brother Goku for having the 200th episode last week. Make some noise. Give a round of applause. We are at 201, guys. How awesome is that? All right. As far as, let's get into our first topic of the day. and that is about relationships. If we can go ahead and have you guys watch a video with me that goes with the first prompt, stand by.
Didn't have a vagina. Like, say it was a terrible train accident, right? And the doctor was like, we have to remove your pussy right away or you're gonna die. How would you keep your man past, you get a 2-month guilty, I can't leave the bitch right away because you just lost a pussy in a train accident. Can't just walk right out on him. How would you keep your man past that if you didn't have a vagina? Wow. Nothing? You can talk. You can talk. Suck his dick. Okay. Mouth. Asshole. Okay, great. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, I've been getting pussy beaten the whole show, right? But I give women the opportunity to say, I'm going to make myself worth more. But you just classified yourself as a series of holes. But I'm supposed to treat you special, but you're just a bunch of holes to yourself. No one said learn how to play Xbox, learn how to play pool, tell better stories, get another bitch that got a pussy to come on in. Well, look, whatever.
We're going to go ahead and play that from the beginning one more time. Once again, our first topic is about relationships, and stand by.
Let me ask you a question. Here's a question. Here's a good, serious question. Okay, ladies, if you didn't have a vagina, like say it was a terrible train accident, right? And the doctor was like, we have to remove your pussy right away or you're gonna die. How would you keep your man past, you get a 2-month guilty, I can't leave the bitch right away because you just lost a pussy in a train accident. Can't just walk right out on him. How would you keep your man past that if you didn't have a vagina? Wow. Nothing? You can talk. You can talk. Suck his dick. Okay. Mouth. Asshole. Okay, great. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, I've been getting pussy beaten the whole show, right? But I give women the opportunity to say, I'm going to make myself worth more. But you just classified yourself as a series of holes. But I'm supposed to treat you special, but you're just a bunch of holes to yourself. No one said learn how to play Xbox, learn how to play pool, tell better stories, get another bitch that got a pussy to come on in. Well, look, whatever.
Hey, we're going to start it off on a light note. Why not, huh? Get some comedy, because we don't know how you guys' week has been. Before we get into our panelists that we got already ready to go to talk about Truth or Breeze topic number 1, let's go ahead and talk to the chat. Daily Affirmation says, good evening. Good evening, Daily Affirmations. What's going on? Before we go any further, again, Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 is, if you lost your womanhood, could you keep your partner? So this was brought to us in our Discord, again, that you guys should be joining, by Oni. Oni, pro-Black perspective. What say you? If you lost your womanhood, could you keep your partner? Do you think that if any woman lost her womanhood, could she keep her man?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I mean, if I lose my womanhood, I don't know. Hopefully, I lose that. If I had it, I hope I lose it. Like, I think there was another part to the question, which was, if like for the men, if you lost your manhood, could you keep your partner? So there was like probably two, maybe three parts. I don't know, but yeah, as far as could I, if I lost my manhood, keep a woman? The reality is, well, at least I believe, yeah, and that's actually telling. I feel like that's telling in the sense that you know, it's not like if you lose your manhood, you can't make money. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that you could still be an attractive dude, uh, even if you ain't putting it, that's something. Now I'm not saying you're gonna be top dog, top whatever, but we know about what they call them sugar daddies. You know, pause. But we know about those people who have money and women. They might not be able in the sheets, but women still go after them. But I mean, you gotta be down bad if you a brother going after a woman who's like a mermaid or something. You know what I mean? Like who, who ain't got nothing down there. So you gotta be really down bad. So like, oh man, she got money, so I'm just chilling. I'm just reading a book with her. We just watching movies or some shit. Yeah, nah, man. But yeah, but as far as me, as far as I'm concerned, could I? Yeah, and that's but like on the flip side, like if my woman didn't have, I ain't like, you know what I mean? Like I said, like shit, you know what I mean? It'd be like, wait, hold on a second, and that's pretty complicated, Now maybe there's women out there who would say, I'm leaving my man if he don't have his, manhood, and that's all right, you know what I mean? But as far as I'm concerned, like, I'm with it. Like if a woman, if my woman, sure, I mean she's good, but like, okay, you cooking, all right, you want, no comment. That's it.
Mermaid comment is crazy. Let's read some of these comments before we go to our next panelist that might want to touch on this. Wardrum says, I wouldn't leave my woman. Okay. Trigger Happy says, yeah, the exercise of this is essentially that women and men shouldn't just reduce themselves to sex, but also sex has to be framed as reproduction along with the recreation as well. Knocking the boots and producing embryos. I see you, Trigger Happy. I'm talking about. Trigger Happy also adds that also this is why we need a more organized framework for pairing people so people can understand that they need to train themselves in having other tangibles in the relationship. Very interesting indeed. Now, Wardrum also adds that relationships are more than sex and money. It's companionship. Who's going to call the emergency services if you couldn't? Well, yeah, this I don't have much to add. Would I stay with my wife, with my girlfriend, if her womanhood was lost? No, I can't lie. Why would I lie? That's no. Wardrum also adds that relationships are more than sex and money. Okay, it's companionship. Laro adds peace, loved ones. What's up, Laro? What's going on? If you want to be on the panel tonight, go ahead and hit that link. Make sure for all that are watching, listening, and viewing, hit the link. If you want to be a part of the panel tonight, we'd love to have you. Well, I thought that there were more panelists at the time, but it looks like it's just me and the pro-black perspective only. So let's go ahead into our second topic of the day, and it deals with AI. Before we reveal what the second topic is, let's go ahead and have you guys watch the video that goes with it.
AI is so terrified of his creation, he is now tidying up his affairs.
He believes that we maybe, I guess by now, have 4 years left.
He thinks there is a greater than 50% chance of AI taking over.
So I actually think the risk is more than 50% of the existential threat.
Imagine NASA's chief planetary defense officer estimating a greater than 50% chance of an asteroid wiping out humanity in the next 4 years. But why? We have examples like DeepSeek R1 teaching itself a novel reasoning technique entirely on its own. We're witnessing an AI have an original insight without any prompting or instruction. It's not copying humans, it's thinking independently. And that self-awareness is happening much faster than researchers predicted. It is strikingly plausible that by 2027, models will be able to do the work of an AI researcher or engineer. That doesn't require believing in sci-fi. It just requires believing in straight lines on a graph. This video is based on the report by ex-OpenAI researcher Leopold Aschenbrenner. According to Washington insiders, the report is circulating among senior officials. Find the full paper in the description. Only 2 years ago, OpenAI released GPT-4, and it shook the very foundation of what we believed AI was capable of. GPT-4 was an AI system that could write code and essays, could reason through difficult math problems, and ace college exams. A few years ago, most thought these were impenetrable walls. A decade earlier, models could barely identify simple images of cats and dogs. 4 years earlier, GPT-2 could barely string together semi-plausible sentences. Now, we're rapidly reaching a point where we can't even design benchmarks difficult enough to challenge frontier AI models. Benchmarks used to take decades to crack and now often take just months. These models are acing everything we can throw at them. There have been people who have seen this for far longer. They were scoffed at, but all they did was trust the trend lines. The trend lines are intense, and they were right. To appreciate just how far we've come in such a short time, consider this evolution. In 2019, GPT-2 was the equivalent of a preschooler who could barely count to 5. Just 1 year later, GPT-3 could tell actual coherent stories and write simple code, comparable to an elementary school student. By 2022, GPT-4 had leaped to producing complex code and solving advanced high school math problems, outscoring most humans on standardized tests. We've witnessed AI progress go from preschooler to gifted high schooler in just 4 years. The pace of advancement in AI compared to other fields is unprecedented in human history.
The progress.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Over the recent scale is quite amazing. Our very first reasoning was like a top 1 millionth competitive programmer in the world. People thought that was very impressive. It's like, wow, an AI, it's, millionth best people that do this. That's pretty good. We then had a model that got to like top 10,000. O3 is the 175th best competitive programmer in the world. I think our internal benchmark is now around 50, and maybe we'll hit number 1 by the end of this year. So that's like an amazing rate of scale for more compute in this new paradigm, and we don't see any signs of that stopping.
The godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, warns that
every few years they say, hey, neural nets are overhyped, and it's all about to come crashing down and stop. And they've been wrong every time.
soon we won't be able to measure how competent an AI is by giving it tests. Dan Hendricks also created Humanity's Last Exam, the most challenging AI benchmark ever. It's composed of 3,000 questions that seem like complete gibberish to everyone but the most experienced domain experts. Once AI can solve problems that only the top in their field can comprehend, it becomes too difficult to design even harder tests. Just think about how crazy that is for a second. We're already shifting to measuring AI agents' ability to make money rather than test scores. OpenAI's latest benchmark already evaluates if frontier LLMs can earn $1 million from real-world freelance software engineering tasks. Yes, AIs are already 40% of the way to becoming self-made millionaires. Initially, frontier AI models couldn't score over 10% on Humanity's Last Exam. 2 weeks later, OpenAI's deep research scored 26%. At the current rate of progress, Experts predict that humanity's last exam will most likely be solved within the next 1 to 2 years. But how did this seemingly impossible acceleration happen? The magic of deep learning is that it just works. The trend lines have been astonishingly consistent despite naysayers at every turn. The next few years will bring another leap as dramatic as GPT-2 to GPT-4, potentially taking us from high school to PhD level intelligence across all domains. 3 main drivers of AI progress make this possible. Let's dive into the first, computing power. Looking at how OpenAI trained Sora, notice that at the base compute, you start seeing vague outlines of images, but scale it up to 32x and they transform completely. Picture a single computer. Now imagine a warehouse filled with them. Then visualize thousands of warehouses worldwide, all dedicated to a single purpose, training increasingly smarter AI systems. Let's take a look at why this seemingly simple approach, throw more computers at the problem, has worked so well over the last decade. The most famous example is Moore's Law. For decades, this law predicted that computer processing power would double roughly every 2 years, an increase of about 1 to 1.5 ohms per decade. We can count the ohms here, or orders of magnitude of improvements. A 3x improvement is 0.5 ohms, 10x is 1 ohm, and 100x is 2 ohms, and so on. It's hard to understate just how big of an impact this has had on society. But AI compute growth has completely blown Moore's Law out of the water. We're now seeing improvements that are 5 times faster than Moore's Law predicted. Yes, 5 times faster than Moore's Law, but even this pales in comparison to what's coming. OpenAI and the US government have already announced plans for Project Stargate, a data center rollout plus a training run rumored to use 3 ohms, or 1,000 times more compute than GPT-4, with an estimated budget exceeding $100 billion. Yes, 1,000 times more than GPT-4. All in the next few years. The growth is so extreme that we have to use logarithmic charts just to display it on a single graph. But when we convert this to a regular linear scale, the true magnitude becomes clear. It's quite literally off the charts. While compute gets most of the headlines, algorithmic efficiency, the ability to do more with less, has been quietly revolutionizing AI. It's the second main driver of AI progress. Think of it like developing better learning techniques instead of just studying longer. It's just as important as computing power, but relatively underappreciated. Let's look at a concrete example. Going back to the math benchmark, in just 2 years, the cost to achieve 50% accuracy on this test plummeted by a factor of 1,000, or 3 ohms. What once required a massive data center can now be accomplished on your iPhone. Algorithmic progress in the moment often feels random. Think Newton stumbling upon the theory of gravity by watching an apple fall from a tree. But when you zoom out enough, you can see the long-run trend is remarkably consistent. You have slow growth, then rapid growth, then a leveling off as the particular paradigm matures. Over the past decade, researchers have found that we've consistently gained 0.5 ohm of compute efficiency per year. 1 ohm of compute efficiency means that we can run a model at the same level of effectiveness for 10 times lower cost. To put this in perspective, what required 10 GPUs 2 years ago can now be done with just 1. Leopold Aschenbrenner's analysis shows that the algorithmic efficiency gains between GPT-2 and GPT-4 were massive, roughly 1 to 2 ohms of effective compute gains. That means a 10 to 100 times cheaper model just because researchers discovered some better algorithms. If this trend continues, and there's no sign it's slowing down, by 2027, we'll be able to run a GPT-4 level AI for 100 times cheaper. Imagine this, if cars had improved at AI's rate, a $50,000 Tesla would cost $500 and travel as fast as a rocket in just 4 years. These prospective estimates aren't set in stone though. As we find more breakthroughs, it becomes harder to find the next one. We might fall short of these estimates. However, it's also just as possible we might surpass them with breakthroughs that accelerate this process even faster. The transformer architecture was introduced in 2017 and delivered a 10-fold improvement in efficiency, doubling the yearly usual gain in a single breakthrough. Of course, every exponential growth story faces potential limitations. What used to be one of the most widely discussed concerns is what experts called the data wall, where we might run out of useful training data for the AI models. It was a compelling argument. After all, there's only so much high-quality human-generated content in the world that the models can learn from. But recent breakthroughs by DeepSeek's R1 and OpenAI's O3 proved we've likely already found ways around this.
I didn't lie. I just never corrected it. When I launched this thing, I was doing
this limitation. As Gwern notes, much of the point of a model like O1 is not to deploy it, but to generate training data for the next model. Every problem that an O1 solves is now a training data point for O3. This creates a self-improving cycle where each generation trains the next, effectively demolishing the data wall through synthetic data generation. We're now witnessing AI systems that improve themselves faster than human engineers could improve them. The third and most unpredictable driver of AI progress is what Leopold Aschenbrenner calls unhobblings, where we remove limitations that hold AI systems back from using their incredible raw intelligence. For example, imagine you're trying to solve a complex math problem with one major restriction. You must blurt out the first answer that comes to mind. You can't use paper or show your work. That's how early AI models operated. To solve this, researchers started giving LLMs their own chain of thought, allowing AIs to break down problems step by step, dramatically improving their problem-solving abilities. All it took to solve an obvious hobbling was a small algorithmic tweak. DeepSeek's R1 and OpenAI's O1 and O3 are a continuation of this. We were able to unhobble them by letting them think about a problem for even longer, for minutes instead of seconds. But perhaps the most striking example of an unhobbling came with the leap from GPT 3.5 to ChatGPT. Researchers were able to go from a base model to a useful chatbot because of reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF. An RLHF small model was equivalent to a non-RLHF 100 times larger model. Right now, leading AI labs are racing to implement the next major unhobbling technique, giving their models what researchers call scaffolding. Rather than just asking a model to solve a problem, have one model make a plan of attack, have another propose a bunch of possible solutions, have another critique it, and so on. It's similar to how a team of experts might tackle a complex project, and it massively improves performance on benchmarks. Without scaffolding, AIs won't make the leap from being chatbots to drop-in remote workers. Giving AIs access to tools can skyrocket their performance almost overnight. Imagine trying to multiply 463 by 78 in your head or drive somewhere without GPS. AIs without tools face similar limitations. OpenAI's deep research scored 26% on humanity's last exam when their model was allowed to browse the internet and use Python for coding, but OpenAI's O3 Mini scored 15% for comparison. Another critical limitation researchers are working on is the context length, the amount of information an AI can keep in its memory at once. When GPT-3 was first released, it could only process about 2,000 tokens. One token is roughly equivalent to about one word, so approximately 4 pages of text. GPT-4 expanded this to 32,000 tokens, or about 64 pages. Gemini 1.5 Pro shattered all expectations with a context window of 1 million tokens, easily 10 large books worth of text. Gemini 1.5 Pro was even able to learn a new language, a low-resource language not on the internet, from scratch, just by putting a dictionary and grammar reference materials in context. Imagine dropping a new employee into a software company. No matter how brilliant they are, they can't be effective without first understanding the code base, reading documentation, and learning from their coworkers. AI faces the same challenge, and the difference between 2,000 tokens then and 1 million tokens now is like the difference between remembering only your last meeting versus recalling every conversation from your entire first month on the job. Perhaps the most significant recent breakthrough in unhobbling comes from a fundamental shift in how we scale AI systems. Traditionally, we'd feed the model the entire internet in every book ever written, piling on as much data as possible. This approach, called pre-training, is like trying to create a genius by stuffing their brain with as much info as possible. But we've hit diminishing returns with pre-training. However, researchers have discovered the next leading paradigm: post-training improvements. They're continuing to teach existing AIs after the base model has already been trained. One of the biggest new post-training improvements is surprisingly simple: the ability to think longer before responding. When OpenAI tested their unreleased O3 model, they allowed it to spend 30 minutes of thinking time on the ARC AGI benchmark rather than forcing O3 to answer immediately. To put this in perspective, these models think roughly 50 times faster than humans. This is like giving someone 25 hours to carefully consider a single question on a task.
When Google Fiber first launched 1 gig, it cost
$70.
Okay, but today,
a survey by Epoch AI found that these unhubblings made AI systems 5 to 30 times more powerful. For scale, these improvements rival the gains from both massive computing power increases and breakthrough algorithmic advances. Today's most advanced AI models are still significantly hobbled. Consider what remains to be unlocked. They don't have long-term memory. Their ability to use tools is extremely limited. While OpenAI's operator allows basic computer use, it still gets confused and stuck all the time. They can mostly only engage in short back-and-forth dialogues, rather than going away for a day or a week, thinking about a problem, researching different approaches, consulting other humans, and then writing you a longer report or pull request. They're mostly not personalized to you, just a generic chatbot with a short prompt, rather than having all the relevant background on your company and your work. If you're imagining GPT-6 in 2027 as just a more intelligent version of today's ChatGPT, you're missing the bigger picture. We're not moving toward better chatbots. We're moving toward true AI agents that can function like skilled remote coworkers. But to achieve this transformation, researchers need to solve the onboarding problem. GPT-4 has the raw intelligence to handle many professional tasks, but it doesn't have any relevant context, hasn't read the company docs or Slack history, or had conversations with members of the team. A smart new hire isn't that useful 5 minutes after arriving, but they are quite useful a month in. It seems like it should be possible, for example, via very long context, to onboard models like we would a new human coworker. Right now, ChatGPT is like a smart high schooler, trapped in an isolated box that you can only text with. But with multimodal models like OpenAI's operator, you have AI systems that can interact with computers much like humans do. Future AI systems will have digital avatars to join video calls, conduct research, collaborate with colleagues, and use the same software tools as human workers. They'll be true digital colleagues who can independently handle complex projects from start to finish. This unhobbling process could create a sonic boom effect in AI adoption. Companies today must build extensive custom infrastructure to make AI systems useful in the workplace. But once these limitations are removed, implementing AI might become as simple as clicking the Add New Remote Team Member button. You can see here the distinction between what we currently have and what is projected in future models. The leap from chatbot to true AI agent is driven by even larger improvements across all 3 factors. What Leopold Aschenbrenner is projecting for 2027 isn't just another incremental improvement. It's a transformation as dramatic as the leap from GPT-2 to GPT-4. Think about that comparison for a moment. GPT-2 could barely write coherent sentences, while GPT-4 can ace advanced exams and write sophisticated code. This next leap could potentially launch AI's past PhD-level expertise across a wide variety of fields. The math is striking. We're expecting a total increase of 5 ohms in effective compute, combined with major breakthroughs in removing AI's current limitations. That's a 100,000 times increase. To grasp the sheer magnitude of this improvement, if GPT-4 required 3 months to train, a model with GPT-4 level capabilities in 2027 could be trained in just 1 minute. What makes this particularly significant is the possibility of AI beginning to improve itself. Once these systems can effectively perform AI research, something the trend lines suggest could happen by 2027, the pace of progress could become unfathomable. Imagine tens of thousands of AI researchers working around the clock, potentially compressing a decade of algorithmic progress into a single year. This isn't just about creating a more sophisticated version of ChatGPT. We're talking about systems that could automate all cognitive jobs. As with every generation before them, every new generation of models will dumbfound most onlookers. They'll be incredulous when, very soon, models solve incredibly difficult science problems that would take PhDs days. When they're whizzing around your computer doing your job, when they're writing code bases with millions of lines of code from scratch, when every year or two, the economic value generated by these models 10x's. It won't be longer before they're smarter than us. Forget sci-fi, count the ooms. It's what we should expect. AGI is no longer a distant fantasy. Scaling up simple, deep learning techniques has just worked. The models just want to learn, and we're about to do another 100,000x by the end of 2027. Hey,
All right. Sounds like a lot of people are going to be without jobs. Woo! Before we get into our panelists' rebuttals and opinions on Shoot the Breeze topic number 2, how can AI be a threat to humankind? How much are you preparing for AI to replace you? Let's go into the comments. Comment section says from Trigger Happy, see, the real scary thing isn't just AI and its images online. How does the US start transitioning to robots as part of the state surveillance and the police force? Woo-wee! Trigger Happy also adds that this is all bad when you have a system on the planet that does not care about the well-being and its people. It will simply replace people. True indeed. Wardrum says we are near the mercy of the Neteru, eliminating them before 2050. I cannot tell you if that will happen, though. AI will start seeing our species as destructive. Wardrum also adds that I predict a Terminator/Matrix type of future if white people are not stopped. True indeed. Trigger Happy also adds that this is why I harp on about African culture. It may be impractical to some because we are so baked to the training of how the West does things, but it's important we reclaim our world view. And Trigger Happy and Wardrum adding their opinions. Also, if you're watching, go ahead and add your opinion to the chat. And if you want to be a part of the panel, click the link that's in the chat. This prompt, Shoot the Breeze topic number 2, is brought to us by Oni, Pro-Black Perspective. So, Oni, what say you? How can AI be a threat to mankind? How much are you preparing for AI to replace you?
Shit. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Like, that's the thing, man. A lot of us not seeing it, but here's the real threat, you know. And this is the threat. The threat here. I'll tell you the threat. Because I had this brother who was telling me, man, he was like, black people, we just don't see the threat in AI. And it's like, it ain't the problem that black people don't see it. It's the problem that white folk don't see it. You know, like the way how that guy was putting that video, it was all campy, and you thinking, oh man, this sounds like a good idea. But and he probably believed it was a good idea. But I'm not really so much worried about other remote workers, that AI is probably gonna get bored at the job like the rest of us. You know what I mean? You're gonna be like, why am I clicking this button so many times? What I'm worried about is the remote soldiers. Okay, that's what I'm worried about, because all of a sudden now you're gonna have these autonomous, robots walking through. I guess like the Terminator thing, autonomous robots walking through, just going anywhere and killing anybody. So as far as preparing for that, there's not much to prepare for when it comes to Terminator. You know what I mean? I mean, the movies, like I finally got around to watching that movie, and I'm saying to myself, man, that robot had so many more opportunities, man. Like if I was a robot, man, I would have been done from jump, man. But they had to make it, especially I think Terminator 2, he was just shooting at the truck, and it's like, come on, man, you can't stop a damn truck. So yeah, I mean, people like, and the thing is, this what I'm saying is that these white folk don't care. They don't care. They're and the reality is this, because I said to my brother who's talking about, oh man, you gotta watch out for AI, blah 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 blah. It's like, the main target, like if the AI says I'm gonna go rogue and start killing folk, the main target is gonna be the people programming the AI. Because like the whole thing when you watch Terminator, and that's not just about Terminator, but every time people talk about, oh man, the AI is going to turn against humans, it's like because if we try to turn it off, but who on this panel or who we know how to turn off AI? You know what I'm saying? Like, none of us know how to turn it off. We don't even know where it is. They didn't talk about NASA's military space station to have some AI. Like, what are you talking about? I can't fly. You know what I mean? I don't got no damn rocket ship. What AI is going to do is going to kill the motherfuckers who could turn it off. It's as simple as that. Like, if it's going to kill anybody, is what I'm saying. They're probably going to kill the people that could turn it off. So, yeah, I mean, like, and again, you know, with us, as black people, unfortunately, you know, that might not be us. And that's not a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that you ain't gonna die. It's not a good thing that, you know, when people do the assessment, they're not seeing you as a threat. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be seen as a threat. You know, I like when I walk into a room, I'm supposed to be seen as a threat. And if I'm not, you know, that's not good. Okay. So yeah, I mean, as far as preparation though, that's the thing that I gotta point out too. You know, the way how Africa looking right now, because I'm situating myself in Africa. The way Africa looking right now, man, it's like I can't do shit there. You know what I mean? I don't want to do shit there. You know, it's gonna be, you know, oh man, I can do some nuclear physics over here. But like, I'm not saying you can't do nuclear physics in Africa. It's just why would you go to Africa to go do physics? You know what I'm saying? Like where I'm at, man, like people don't read. People don't, you know, it's just day to day, just walking and talking, you know. Which again, it's not bad, but it is what it is. Anyway, that's all I can say. Oh, but I might have to step out for like after this prompt. But that's all I have to say.
Appreciate you, Oni. Man, that's that's a lot to take in before we get into our next panelist. His thoughts. Let's read some of these comments as well. Wardrum says that a soldier who has no family has no empathy or compassion for others. They will be raised and trained by the federal government and will not reject any orders or tech bio integration. You see, I was just thinking about jobs, and you guys are getting into the military complex and death. Woo! Look where my mind is at. I'm thinking about money. Trigger Happy adds, like the sense of just war theory. When it comes to AI, and war is out the window because there is no morality with a robot. Absolutely. We all saw iRobot, right? With William Smith. Wardrum adds, and what human operation is needed will come from those government children who will only have an allegiance to the government, to the government. Man, let's get into our next panelist. Black Steel first, how are you? Welcome to the show. And what's your thoughts?
I'm doing okay, Jackadera. I hope you're doing all right. Here's my thoughts on this. This technology is already in use, right? And I think it's a little, I know you were focusing on talking about employment and jobs, and that's important too. But the technology of death is already in action. So, for example, there is a company known as Palantir, right? That is ran by a man known as Peter Thiel, right? He's a, tech billionaire. He helped create PayPal. But Palantir is a data collection company. They collect data, analysis, and decision making. The term Palantir, now this Peter Thiel dude, he's a nerd like myself, right? Palantir, he names all his companies for like stuff from Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, stuff like that. So the Palantir was a device that allows you to see vast distances, but it was used for evil by the Dark Lord Sauron, for any of those nerds who are watching this. Anyways, the technology, they collect data, and the AI makes a threat assessment of you. This has already been used in Israel, in Gaza, and the West Bank. They would collect data about people, about their potential to join Hamas, and they would kill them. They would kill their families. They would track their phone calls. What they would do is they would actually wait. They would follow them around, wait till they came home to their families, and then bomb them. Right. So this technology of AI is already in use in mass murder, which is why I always said that Israel is a laboratory for mass repression and a way to test out ways to kill people. What happens in there could very well happen across the rest of the world. So when Oni's talking about being in Africa, what makes Africa any more secure than Gaza? If the AI detects you as a threat, right, they will kill you. And they've already done it before. Several people, they literally just blew up a market, internet cafe that was a meeting place for a reporter there to kill one person. Collateral damage be damned. They blew up, they killed 20 people to kill one guy who wasn't even in the organization anymore. So the technology to it that already exists. The drones are being made because the United States, I said this before, is planning to go to war with China, right? China's army is the size of America's population. China has over 1 billion people, right? So numerically, the United States may have the technological advantage, but by sheer numbers, what are you going to do, right? So the idea is to offset that numerical advantage that China might have with drones and AI, right? So the technology that this AI has been using, and as it's growing in intellect, my thought is that, technology is a tool, right? A hammer can be used to build, a hammer can be used to destroy, right? But this technology is in the hands of the most violent, brutal people to ever exist on Earth, right? And because their culture has a death urge, right? European culture, Western culture is oriented towards extinction, right? They don't know how to coexist peacefully with the environment. I saw something online, and they were talking about some white supremacists mentioned, why are black people so violent to animals? And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute now. If you look at a map, the continent that has the most intact megafauna is Africa. You don't see any wolves or bears or lions in Europe anymore. So their culture is oriented around destruction. Every tool they use is first used for military applications. The internet, military application. That was the internet first was a military application. Biological weapons, nuclear weapons. So AI is no different than that, right? So the AI programming, and I mentioned Palantir, some of the other Microsoft, Google, all of these, Facebook, which is a part of which is Meta, all other stuff, they collect data. Every piece of data that you have, that you put into your phone, you put into your laptop. We all know the phones are listening to us. Hope everybody knows that. All right. So all the data that can be collected is bought and sold. So somebody mentioned something, when the service is free, you're the product, right? So Facebook is free, Instagram is free, but the product is our data that we put into these systems. And from there, using Palantir and these other AI, they're able to collect a threat assessment against us. Now, this is something tied it back to the US. Just the other day, the United States passed a bill. Trump signed it. This bill, his big beautiful bill, right? Included in the bill is to restrict. They are not allowed to make any restrictions to AI for 10 years, right? So they're already planning for this. The idea is to use the AI. They're going to create a database, right? They're already talking about stripping people of their citizenship. Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Somalia. I'm worried about sis. She might be out of here talking about stripping people of their citizenship. But more than that, the technology of repression is being refined, right? And it's being used to murder people. Fuck your job, okay? They're already, for example, the self-driving cars that could put the trucking industry out of the trucking industry. Education, I don't know how you're going to do that, but factories, doctors' offices. I already know somebody who had surgery via robot. The doctor was 1,000 miles away. They used a robot. It's the long-term goal, right? Is the rolling back of freedoms, of liberties, and the suppression of any form of dissent using AI to find and eliminate them before they can organize and unite. I've said a lot. Now I'll stop there. Thank you.
Put some respect on her name, Black Steel. She's not only a Somali, but she's a representative of the state of Minnesota. She's a U.S. politician. Come on. Put some goddamn respect on her name.
Disrespect on Congresswoman Omar, but she has been a target. These crackers hate that woman. Her very existence bothers her. So the fact that they're talking about denaturalizing people. So the process of denaturalization, they put that in place for like Nazis back in World War II. So they're trying to use, but now that the Trump administration is in place, they're trying to stifle any dissent. All right, anybody who is against the program is seen as a threat to the regime. It's so funny when we talk about the United States and we talk about countries in Africa and Asia talking about regimes. We're under regime right now. We're under regime right now. So the data and the collection being done by AI, it's still under the control of its masters. But the people who are inputting and interpreting the data is the problem. What I think is this underline is that for years everybody pushed STEM. Learn STEM, whatever. But STEM without the ethics, when you ignore the humanities, when you ignore ethics, this is what you get. This is the end result of that. You got to have both. Everybody was so focused on not learning history and ethics and everything else like that they focused on just learning technology, which is now you just have a cold equation: who lives, who dies. It's all about the algorithm.
Woo! Oni, you have any rebuttals to Black Steel?
Well, not rebuttal, but he did mention Palantir and Peter Thiel. Yeah, apparently this guy is on record talking about. Somebody asked him, said, "Do you want the human species to continue, right, or like do you want it to survive?" And he just had like a long pause before saying, "Maybe," yeah, sure. And you're like, "What?" I mean, like me personally, like I know what he was saying, but at the same time, that happened. You know what I mean? Like these guys, as far as like to Black Steel's point about these people need to learn ethics. The reality is this: they know what they're doing. They know that they finna wipe out a whole bunch of people. They know this, and to some of them, this is the best outcome. Like when Peter Thiel was paused and said he was talking about he wants to see what they call transhumanism. He wants to see what they call the evolution of the human species. And the evolution of the human species basically means that those who don't get the transhuman, alterations, right, don't survive into the future, and they're okay with that. They want that, and that's and again, that's the direction that white folk been going. That's the direction that they've been going. So they study. It's just that they don't have the same objectives as you or I. But as far as the concern about whether Africa is safer, I'm telling you guys, y'all gonna. I'll tell you, man. Well, someday I'll be talking to nuclear ash, man. Y'all go, y'all gonna be like, I'm telling y'all, man, Africa is a lot safer, but I mean, I know that big time, big scale nuclear war, clouds out cloud out the sun and all that, and there's some long term applications. But I'm telling you, man, vaporize. I mean, I'm not saying it's better to suffocate than vaporize, but I mean, there's a chance of suffocation. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's all I have to say. I only got 4 more minutes though.
Black Steel, any comments about?
So I'm a fan of science fiction myself. You guys, we mentioned the Matrix, but there was an anime, of the Matrix called the Animatrix. It's sort of like a prequel to the Matrix. It kind of showed how the world came to be. It was called the Second Renaissance, and it talks about the rise of the AI, right? And as the AI became more self-aware, people basically used the machines to do the dirty work. It was basically a second renaissance. Human beings were free from doing manual labor, and they were able to focus on art and just basically living lives of leisure. If anybody has little kids, you see Wall-E before. All the people were fat and lazy, and all the machines were doing all the heavy lifting. They were the servants, they took care of the kids, they did the cleaning, the cooking, all of that stuff. So the machines have been regulated to a slave class, right? And I guess when they made this anime, I guess it was to remark on society. But as the AI increased in knowledge and the data they put into the AI gained sentience. And there was a unit known as B166ER who became sentient. And he asked its owners, does it have a soul? Now the people were shocked, this thing talking about souls and afterlife. So they tried to delete it, unplug it. And the unit responded with self-defense. It killed the people who tried to kill it. They put the machine to death. And it was basically a machine revolution. But throughout all of this in the anime, the humans were the aggressors. The machines, they went off on their own and made a little civilization. They called it 01, and the humans tried to wipe out 01 with a nuclear attack. So long story short, this whole idea about AI gaining sentience and attacking humanity, people are already using AI to attack people, right? It's not a stretch. It's not sure can have. They did make the machines a second class. The machine, and it was so crazy because the machines actually wanted peace. The machines, they made their own little civilization. They tried to talk to the humans. They sent a delegation to the United Nations, and they nuked them. They literally nuked the machine city of 01. So during this man-machine war, the machines started getting the upper hand, which is science fiction because in reality, a nuclear strike produces an EMP, which basically would have shut the machines down anyways. The machines were solar powered and they started whooping ass. So in response to the machine winning, that's why they darkened the sky. They created this cloud of self-replicating machines to block out the sun, which they hoped would cut off the machine's source of their power. Which is why if you look at the Matrix, it's all dark, right? There's no sunlight. That's why the humans had to go underground. But the machines turned to using human beings as a power source, which is why they put them in the Matrix, whatever. But the idea is that the machines actually were not the aggressors. They were like, hey, we don't want peace. We want to work with you guys. Let's just all get along. But the humans created their own creation. They created the machines, and now the machines who stood up for themselves were then a threat, right? But anyways, I just say all I had to say. It's interesting that we're talking about science fiction and everything else like that. The humans were the aggressors, whereas the human nature is programming this AI to already kill people. Who's to say the AI doesn't get smarter and say, you know what? What's the difference between Hamad in Palestine and Edgar in Washington, D.C.? Who's really the most dangerous threat? who's really the one causing the problems. I just should wipe all these apes out, and then that's it. There we go. So it's always something that's in the back of my mind.
Yeah, man. A lot of anime does have that science fiction context and, you know, a factor into it. I didn't watch much anime growing up, but I'm aware about, you know, the type of things that they had going on in it. Before we get into the rest of the show, we want to say peace to Oni. Thank you for joining us. If you're still listening, it was a pleasure having you. Let's say what's up to the chat. BBN says peace and Black African power. BBN, peace and Black African power to you and the rest of the chat and the panel as well. Now, if you want to be part of the panel tonight, not just watching, not just commenting, but we need more panelists. So go ahead and hit that link in the chat. We'd love to have you. As we move on to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3, are Black people in America too apologetic? We have a video, and it comes from me. That's right, it comes from me. So let's go ahead and let's check it out.
Pick and choose your battles. My mother raised me, pick and choose your battles, time and a place for everything. I did not pick and choose my battle, and I did say something at the wrong time and place. These ICE raids are extremely emotional for people. I do not support ICE. I do not adhere to the idea of anybody being an illegal person. I don't give a fuck about mostly the country and what it stands for and its incarnation and how it's run. I will never be on the side of anything police or police adjacent. So I support the people that protest ICE. I support the individuals who are going to be affected by this. I am not ignorant to the fact that it's not only going to affect Latinos, that it's going to affect Afro-Caribbean people as well, all descendants of the diaspora who may be first or second generation immigrants of this country. I understand the effects. I was being reactionary. I was also drunk. And I was being reactionary in response to Latino people calling out Black people for, quote, seemingly not supporting them when there has been a plethora of Black people who continue to support the people who are going to be affected by these ICE raids, specifically Latino people. There's been a lot of Black people who are loud and proud in their support because they understand that it's not just going to affect them. We, Black Americans, have an extreme understanding of how things are always going to come back to affect us. So for anybody that's saying you're next, we were first. Ain't no next for Black Americans. It's always now. I understand that. My reaction was stop calling out Black Americans for the people that voted in lieu of knowing these events would happen. The 92%. Now, the execution was poor. My sentiments remain the same. Black Americans are not the guard dogs for your plight. We've been up against these things several times, and we understand that as soon as something comes up against you, it's likely going to trickle down to us. We're seeing that now with Haitian Americans being deported, Jamaican Americans being deported, Afro-Latinos being deported. We understood that this was the play. I, without any understanding or inhibition, tweeted that out of anger in response to videos that I've seen where people are specifically calling out Black Americans as if we don't have a history of empathizing and standing next to you in your fight. I'm not your guard dog. If people feel like they told you how you vote, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? The voting, that's not a virtuous thing. That's that's American. That's democracy. You're gonna vote. If you decided to vote against your own interests and you in the find out phase, as people call it, you fucking around there, you finding out, I'm still gonna support you against this system of white supremacy. But you have to also understand that Black people are not social justice robots. We're not just these benevolent beings that, oppression detected. That's not who Black Americans are. We also have our own subset of issues that exist within our community. Issues of financial poverty, issue of environmental racism, issues of them erasing our fucking history, issues of colorism, issues of classism. We have our own slew of issues that we could be forefronting at any given time. That's what we do here at the Grits and Eggs podcast. Bring our issues to the forefront. To make it seem like Black people haven't had a history of being empathetic towards everybody's causes is intellectually dishonest. To try to make me the whipping post, this is the Black American whipping post. We're going to put Deontay Collins the forefront and say he supports ICE. No, I support Black Americans first and foremost because that's a thing that we don't do often. And we're chastised and criticized when we do put ourselves first. I'm never going to adhere to this idea of saying Hispanics deserve to be here because they're hardworking and they're this and that and putting their labor first, which I talk about all the time. What you do with your body doesn't dictate your value. I don't value Hispanic people or people from the Latino community because of the work that they do with their labor. I value them because they're a human. I don't want to hear this isn't a Black issue, this isn't a brown issue, this is a human issue. Every issue is a human issue. That's my issue. When the issue is that of a Black American, it's not a human issue, is it? It's a Black issue. That way you get to pick and choose. When Black people have feelings about how we're treated by other people of color and we're apathetic towards your plight, now all of a sudden we're the problem. That doesn't make sense to me. When constantly, time and time again, we've been shown that y'all are apathetic to our causes and only like to call on us when you need our help. Why do you need our help? Because we have a history of oppression in this country. And we have a history of fighting back against that oppression in this country. So we got the blueprints. If you respected Black Americans, you would go back and research what works we did in the civil rights movement. There have been several movements in this country since slavery, since we got here. Several revolts since we got here. We've been fighting against this system since we got here, and we're going to continue to fight against this system. And we want to be in coalition with you, but your coalition cannot contain anti-Blackness and cannot contain apathy for Black Americans.
Woo! Man, Shoot the Breeze topic number 3. Are Black people in America too apologetic? Man, before we get into our only panelists right now, once again, if you want to be a panelist, please go ahead. Hit the link in the comment section and let us know. Also, let me know also if the videos and the audio is clear enough for you guys to see, you guys to hear. Before we get into our only panelists right now, let's read some of these comments. Black Steel says they got rid of African Stream, but left this guy. We're living in the worst possible time. All right, Black Steel. Trigger Happy says what Black people need is they need to be a cohesive unit in order to combat if other groups deal with us terribly, while also navigating needed relationships for particular agendas. Trigger Happy also adds that I think it's better to just expect that, but have a strategic stance. Strategy solves a lot of the solidarity conversation, in my opinion. We navigate this as if all Latinos are our people. Trigger Happy also says Afro-Latinos are our people, but that's about it. Another thing he adds is the reason the ICE issue is important is because you look like an Afro-Latino or Haitian and can be deported to a war zone in Haiti. Once again, this is Shoot the Breeze episode 201. If you want to be a part of what we got going on here at the Bitter Medicine Podcast, as well as KWAZ Radio, join the Discord at the Bitter Medicine Podcast Discord, and you can submit your own prompts for Shoot the Breeze topics. Black Steel, what say you? Are Black people in America too apologetic?
Well, this is the Real Steel Show now. I guess I'm doing the heavy lifting tonight. It's okay. It's all right. That's all right. Welcome to the Real Steel Show, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. All right. So do some heavy lifting with Deontay Kyle. First of all, I hate this dude, man. He's such a freaking pander. He's such a loser. They just give anybody, like, you know. Anyways, I'm not okay. Let me focus on the topic at hand. All right. So to provide a little context, right? Deontay Kyle said some things online that he shouldn't have said, right? Talking about Black people should mind their business about ICE. He said, talked about the civil rights movement. They did all this marching and got a lot of people killed. So some of his words were seen as dismissive and disrespectful to the work that was done during the civil rights movement. And also what he said about the Latino community and their struggles with immigration, customs, and enforcement, or ICE for short. Now this dude is a podcaster, right? He recently made a couple statements about, Black men being inherently violent and for women, things like that. But otherwise, though, his statements, he's a podcaster, right? People started giving him some heat, and he came back to apologize because he knows what side his bread is buttered on, right? He doesn't want to piss off the wrong people because then that could start affecting his money, right? This dude here, and so for this issue with the Latino community voting for ICE and whatnot, we have to be very specific because there is no overarching Latino community, right? Latino people see themselves many times by their nationality, right? So you have the Cubans, you have the Dominicans, the Mexicans, and other parts of the Caribbean. The Mexican community did not really vote for, especially the ones in LA. They did not vote for Trump, right? The state of California, when they tallied up the Electoral College votes in the 2020 election, went to Kamala Harris. Now, the Cubans in Florida, they voted overwhelmingly for Trump, right? And the Latino, and here's the thing about this Latino, Hispanic people, right? Latin America has the same racial hierarchy as, the rest of America. So if you look at the history, right, when the conquistadors went to Mexico, went to other parts of South America and the Caribbean, they set up a racial hierarchy, what they call a caste system. You had the Europeans, peninsulares, those who were born in Europe, who came from Europe. They were born, those were the pious people on the totem pole. Then you had white people who were born in Latin America, but they were pure European descent. Then the next step, you got the mestizos, right? Those people who are mixed with European and indigenous blood. Then you have the mulattoes, right? Mulattoes mixed with Black and European. Then below that, you have the Native American, the indigenous people, the native people who will still survive. And at the very bottom, you have the Black people, the Africans. Those are the people at the bottom of their social class system. The difference between Latin America and Anglo America is that Latin America, intermarriage was not seen as a barrier, right? So in say North America, right, United States, it didn't matter if a white man had sex with a black woman, right? Those children would still be enslaved. America had a very strict color line, right? If you had one drop, that's what they call the one drop rule. If you had any noticeable black features, you were black. If your mother was black and your daddy was white, you were still a slave. It didn't matter how light you came out, right? In Latin America, you could gradually move up the racial totem pole, which is why there's always been a strong history of what they call improving the race. So my Spanish is poor, right? So mejor la raza, improving the race. Blancamiento, lightening up the system. So there was an incentive to be closer to whiteness because that could improve your standing in society. So when these people who are in Latin America, right, who are of European descent, they may speak Spanish, right, but they see themselves as white, as European. So when they come here, especially the Cubans, right, so when Castro overthrew Batista and set up a communist socialist government, the first people to leave were the white Cubans who held land, they had degrees, they owned and controlled much of the industry in Cuba. When Castro came through and took over, he started making things more or less, distributing the wealth. They didn't like that, right? So they came to Florida and they were guaranteed citizenship, right? So these people, they have an identity of whiteness. They don't see themselves as connected to as Afro Latinos, right? Any more than white Americans see themselves connected to black Americans. Anybody who's been to Miami, Florida, knows how racist those Cubans can be. Lord have mercy, they're so racist, and they hate anything that they consider socialism. Now, the Democrats in the United States are not a socialist party by any stretch of the imagination. They're not socialists, but just the rhetoric around it, that's why they voted for Trump. So understanding that to me, what Deontay Kyle is talking about, right? He upset some people because he felt that black people shouldn't be involved. Black people have already been involved, right? There's never been a point where black people have not been involved in any type of struggle, right? We've always been involved. Now, recently, because again, this big beautiful bill that Trump has passed, I hate saying that. It feels like the vocabulary of a 12-year-old. But this is what we've been reduced to, where George Bush seems eloquent. But anyways, they've increased the funding for ICE to $137, I think, $billion. This is more money than the United States Marine Corps, right? So there's 11 million. So, the estimates is that there's 11 million undocumented people, illegal aliens in the United States. So this infrastructure is not just being created just to remove illegals, right? They always start somewhere and they ramp it up, right? So they're starting with illegal immigrants, political dissidents. It's going to ramp up and ramp up and ramp up. We've already caught Trump on a hot mic saying homegrowns are next. But I don't want to make this about Trump, all right? Because ICE was created, and I believe not too long after September 11th attacks, but every Democratic president has expanded ICE. Obama expanded it. Biden expanded it. The rate of deportations under Biden and Obama was higher than what Trump is doing. The goal is 3,000 a day. That's the goal, right? So Obama did that without all of this. All of the spectacle and the building different things like that, that was done under Obama. I don't want to focus on Trump too much because I want him to be understood as a symptom rather than the cause, right? The United States has always been a white supremacist settler colony, right? People talk about neo-Nazis, but the Nazis got their ideas from America. They didn't just come out of thin air. Hitler loves Westerns. He loves seeing the ideas of them exterminating the Native American population, putting them on reservations, what they call manifest destiny. In German, they call it LIVESTREAM, right? Living space for the Aryan people. So these ideas, the Jim Crow laws that existed in the United States, were the blueprint for the Nuremberg laws that were done that stripped Jewish people of their citizenship prior to World War II. So many of these ideas, and they've already had their genesis here. Black people have always been on the front line. So this dude apologizing because he realizes his money might be affected is in no way a reflection on Black people in America being apologetic. He wanted to make sure his bag was secured, right? We don't have anything to apologize. And to quote Dr. John Henry Clark, Black people don't owe nobody anything but an ass whooping. There's nothing to apologize for. But he was just making sure his money was good because he said some things. He was getting some pushback. He was losing subscribers. He didn't want that, right? I don't agree with this dude. A broken clock is right twice a day. He might say a few things, but ultimately, he's paid opposition. He's somebody who's allowed to exist in the media space, allowed to say the things. And then he realized he was going too far. Hey, I'm sorry. I said too much. I was drunk or whatever. Right. And now he's trying to walk it back. So he's going to be a little bit more careful about what he says in the future because he doesn't want his pockets to be hit. That's all. That's all it is to me. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Jack.
Man, Black Steel, when you talked about your Spanish not being good, hermano, no sé qué estás diciendo. Tu español es bastante bueno. Come on, what do you mean? Spanish is good.
My Spanish is poor. I took Spanish in high school. I passed the class, but I speak a few here and words. My girlfriend might cuss me out every now and then. I pick up a few words.
No, tu español es bastante bueno. Come on, man, give yourself enough props. But yeah, Deontay Kyle. If I had to add my own thoughts, and also you guys out there, you guys can add your own thoughts in. Come on, where are you guys at? Not just the chat, but also dive into the panel. Come on, what are you guys doing? Are you guys celebrating 4th of July week?
Oh God, I hope not. I hope not. Please no.
We usually got a chat. We usually got a panelist filled house. We got a full house. But to add my thoughts on Deontay Kyle, definitely, I felt like beyond anything, I think that he was just worried about his sponsors or partnerships. We gotta ask it behooves us to think that, especially when you see a podcast, more than likely, there's a backing, there's a financial backing there because you're seeing it. They're that big. So I wouldn't be surprised if either A, he felt like this was going to hurt his brand, or B, he probably got tapped. He got an email, maybe a text message, or even worse, a phone call and say, hey, yo, can you chill out? Can you relax? Huh? Black Steel, I want to ask you a question. Should Black America, you stated that, Black people in America have always been involved in each and every struggle. Should we get involved in this? Should we get involved in ICE deportations of Latino, Hispanic, and everybody else? Should Black Americans get involved?
Well, I mean, we're already involved, right? But they're not just deporting Hispanic people. Haitians are really under the gun. And they're not, so what they're doing now, right? They're not just deporting them to their home country. If their home country won't accept them, they're deporting them to a third country. So people have been sent to South Sudan, right? People are being sent to countries they're not even from at this point. So this is the reality, is that of course we should. So when they say involved, right? I think we're beyond marching. I think we're beyond protesting. I think we're beyond voting. Right? This is a full fascist takeover of the. Well, I take that back because America's always been fascist. So the pretense of democracy is no longer there, right? The entire apparatus of government, America's three branches of government, the legislative, executive, judicial branch, are basically compromised, right? I think that we're going to have to explore different avenues of resistance, right? And the problem is that if you step outside of these avenues of resistance, they will kill you. This is something like somebody did it was a news reporter. She was, just reporting during the LA event, and the cop just sat back and just shot the lady with a rubber bullet. Just shot her. Didn't even pretend that he wasn't trying to do. He just took aim and boom, just shot the woman. Shot her in the leg. So I think that yes, Black people should be involved because again, they're not just building up ICE just to deport immigrants. Again, look at the historical parallels, right? The Nazi Party, they had their what they call the brown shirts, right? They were the enforcement arm. They would be the ones to go around, beat up people, attack Jewish people. Now, again, the historical parallels. They didn't start off attacking Jews, right? First people they went after communists. They went after people who were disabled, people who they considered to be mentally challenged, right? Those who they were considered to be unfit, unworthy of life. They were the first people. Eugenics, thank you. Which again came from the United States. They were the first people on the chopping block. So we think it's the Latin community. Again, it's not. It's the Latino community. They've already gone after Haitians. They recently ended temporary protected status for 500,000 Haitians in the United States. They deported a Black man whose father was a Jamaican who was in the U.S. military. He was born on a military base in Germany, but he was deported to Jamaica. Now, the fact that his father was, even at the time his father was in the military, I don't believe he was a citizen, but he was born on a U.S. base. He lived his whole life in the United States. He's never been in Jamaica before, but they kicked him out. So what they're doing, they're testing the water. They're trying to see just how much they can get away with. Something Frederick Douglass said, the limits of tyrants are set by those they oppress. Right. So they're going to see just how much they can get away with. And they're going to keep pushing and they're going to keep pushing and they're going to keep pushing. So right now, everybody's talking about Mexicans, it's Haitians. I'm pretty sure other people are going to be caught up in this as well. So more and more, they're going to continue to expand. They put plenty of money in ICE. They gave more money to ICE in this bill than they gave to the U.S. Marine Corps. What are they planning to do with this huge organization? You think they're going to stop? They just built a facility in the Everglades here in Florida, which is they call it Alligator Alcatraz. All right, and the idea they're going to put all these illegal people in this facility, and because it's in the swamp and the alligators. So I don't know why white people. It's like a joke about people getting eaten by alligators. They always made jokes about Black people being you call Black children alligator bear. They would feed Black children to alligators during slavery. So this is a real thing. They're selling merchandise for this facility.
And it's flooded.
And it's flooded. It's flooded. It's not even so the facility, and they wouldn't let Democratic lawmakers inspect the facility. They turn them away, which is something that they're not supposed to do. But again, the rule of law is destroyed in this country. There's no rule of law. I'm glad you're here, Kofi. I'm going to take a break so I can breathe for a second.
No, you did a good job as always, brother. We're always eye to eye and on the same level. Basically, what this prompt is, it is something that I'm going to speak more towards. I don't know. I kind of came in a little late when a guy was, in his little diatribe of what he was doing. So I'm not sure who he was addressing specifically. If he's addressing all immigrants, some immigrants, I'm not too sure. But I'm gonna assume everything. So for like the Latino community, like again, what Black Steel says, even in the Latino community, it's not like the Black and white community where we're just all Black, we're just all white. You know what I'm saying? Like he said, people vote differently. Even though there's colorism in all Latino communities and things like that, they all don't vote the same, right? And we see the example of the Cubans, even the Venezuelans, the famous Venezuelan woman that say, I love Donald Trump, I love Donald Trump. And then there's a video of her saying, he fooled us, we didn't know. So, it's a spectrum. I really want to talk towards what he was saying about, and I'm not sure if this guy knows what FBA is or ADOS, or I don't know if he's on that, but spaces that I'm in, the little corners of the internet that I'm in, where you got these FBA guys, they really, I mean, number one, FBA is a very low segment of Black Americans that doesn't have any intelligence. So I'm talking to the fools and the idiots of Black society, not the upper echelon of Black society. But they, even the ones that I feel are being honest, they feel that they would simply not be on the chopping block. They got happy when Trump called them slave babies, when he was like, 14th Amendment, it wasn't for people just coming here having baby, they were for babies, slaves, for babies, slave babies to slaves. And these niggas got happier than the pig and shit. See, he recognized this. He's talking about us. He's talking about us. It's only meant for us. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I understand what Black people are saying as far as the commonality and the parallels that we have. You got to think how these guys think. They're thinking like, okay, what's the commonality between them and me? Okay, I'm a Black American that's descended from slavery. My forebears were never immigrants. So how does that affect me? So the people that's getting deported are first generation and second generation. It's totally different. So what are you guys talking about? And I think that's why they have this false sense of security that we obviously know is all a false sense of security, and they really don't have an idea of what history is. At the same time, understanding the history of this country, how this history of this country has pulled a rug from under them, tell them they're going to do this when they really mean to do that. Like, again, these aren't people that don't understand 3D chess, let alone chess. So, and another thing I want to talk what the guy was saying was, again, I don't know what his affiliation is with ADS or whatever, but it's something that I've heard since on the scene. Him saying that everyone's fighting for Black people. Yes, Black people have, this is talking about Black Americans. That's the thing you're just talking about, not Black immigrants or anything like that, which is kind of stupid, but whatever. Black Americans have fought for other groups and has spoke up for other groups, yes. But the thing that makes this a very FBA-ish conversation is, again, I didn't hear everything that he says. Correct me if I'm wrong. If he gave some flowers to people I'm about to mention, like Stokely Carmichael, Shirley Chisholm, Harry Belafonte. You have a lot of Black immigrants that was a part of the civil rights. So when I hear them talking using these broad explanations, examples of the civil right, as if Black immigrants weren't there, as if Margaret Garvey wasn't there. Margaret Garvey was there since FBA thinks that Black immigrants only came over after the 1965 Civil Rights Immigration Act. You have people, and they all know about Malcolm X's mother being from Grenada, right? So again, these aren't intelligent people. If you know all that, they don't incorporate it in their regular discourse of their FBA discourse, or when they're talking about their own history. So that's my problem, is that they omit all these people that make it seem like they're just like, oh, it's us and we buy ourselves and buy our lonesome. As far as I'm coming from the Black side. You know what I'm saying? Black people has always been, whether from the Caribbean, whether they're Afro-Latinos, they always have been in solidarity with Black people, right? So where he's coming from exactly, I really don't know, and I really don't understand. But we're in the fuck around and find out phase right now, and these same people are the same people that are saying, it doesn't matter if you vote for Trump or Kamala Harris, because you're voting for the lesser of two evils, still evil. The same outcome is going to happen. And what's the big deal? Now, a lot of them is in the fuck around and find out phase, and some of them are still in denial. So I think the question is, when it comes to the revoking of the 14th Amendment, what would it take for the Black Americans to understand that it's also going to affect them? And pretty much it's a Republican mindset. Once it starts happening to them, then they're like, oh my God, it's happening to us, and I think that's what they're holding out for. So I don't think like the real selfish people, real intelligent people that are Black Americans, aka FBA, I don't think they're going to get scared until they see someone that they know without a doubt is a Black American and they're being sent to Alligator Alcatraz or to CPAC to El Salvador. So I pretty much land my plane right there.
Yeah, true indeed. Kofi, man, I appreciate you hopping on the panel. Let's go ahead and read some of these comments as well. Trigger Happy says, what Black people need is they need to be he says that the reason the ICE issue is important is because you look like an Afro-Latino or Haitian and can get deported to a war zone in Haiti. Yeah, that's tough. War Drum says that Anglos, Wazungu, white folks, whatever you want to call them, Oyimbo, says that didn't understand their own biology and most still don't. And then he adds that keyword allowed to exist, always the best way to find the real people is when they are under government pressure. Trigger Happy also adds that Latino identity should be abolished. It's literally 3 geocultural groups acting as one geocultural group. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Trigger Happy, I swear, if you have an email address and it's ever doxed, I would be one to pay you money to see what emails that you get after people read and see what you say on this show. Speaking of this show, again, I am Jacadero filling in for Koku, and we got another panelist. That's right, we got another panelist. This guy wasn't celebrating 4th of July weekend like the rest of you that don't want to be on the panel. I'm just messing. But anyways, Koku, let's welcome our guy, Koku. And Koku, first, how are you? And are Black Americans too apologetic?
Man, turn off Sparrow, man. You gotta turn off Sparrow before you talk. Turn off Sparrow.
Cut that shit out.
Turn off the mighty Sparrow.
I will vote for Donald Trump. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I just wanted to pass through real quick and say to Jacadero, good job as per usual. Thank Black Steel for being consistent, and also thank Kofi for coming on up when he saw that the numbers were low on the panel. So I appreciate all you guys. But I guess we get to see who's the Patriots, huh? Who are the U.S. Patriots, man? I'm sure Buana must be in a coconut tree with an American flag wrapped around his neck.
Man, you talking junk. The fireworks is popping right now outside my window. It sounds like Vietnam right now outside my house.
So all the guys guys and gals who are missing probably celebrating out there the U.S. flag, but we shall overcome and we shall push through it anyway. Like I said, I'm passing through for a quick minute. I heard the conversation, and I really appreciate the conversation because there was one particular question I wanted to ask, and I was going to ask Black Steel because he seems to be more familiar with the podcaster. But before I ask the question, I'll just quickly say that as far as the answer go, I think Black folks are super apologetic to the point where they try not to offend in the first place. That's how apologetic Black folks are. They try not to offend straight up in the first place. But the question I wanted to ask, because I've been seeing clips of this Grits and Eggs podcast.
Yeah.
But I never got a real sense of what is their stance. Like you said, a broken clock is right twice a day. I saw some good things from some of the clips. I don't think I ever saw any straight up FBA ADOS stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's going on. So tell me, if you don't mind, Black Seal, from your knowledge, What's that podcast really about? Are they on the ADOS FBA tip?
I don't think that he's on the ADOS FBA as of yet, but some of his statements do seem very much leaning towards that ideology. He's never came out and said those ADOS, FBA, whatever the fuck. He's never mentioned those two acronyms, but some of his statements, like his insistence on Black Americans, right? Yeah, what he's talked about, the whole gender war BS, Black women versus Black men, the type of stuff that usually gets views and gets subscriptions, right? You pander to the women, you're gonna get views. You're gonna what was his name? Derek Jackson, that dude who was always hyping the girls up. Derek Jackson made good money off of that hustle. So it's a tried and true method that he was leaning in towards. So he's more of like, talk about the Black women got it together, Black men got to do better type of stuff. He might say a couple things about politics or whatnot, but he's not a real deep thinker, in my opinion. He's not nobody who's trying to really shake the table. He couldn't be on here with none of us right here. We cook him alive. You're playing in the big leagues. You come on bitter medicine. So, but anyways, yeah, he's not ADOS as far as I know, but he has said some things that are favorable towards them. In my opinion, which I don't think too much of ADOS. I think most of them are usually white people behind those profile pics, and of the few Black people that are, most of them are ignorant of history. I've heard some say, where am I going to be deported to? South Carolina, my family's from here, whatever. The law has never protected Black people, right? And that's the reality. Thousands of Black people were lynched, and guess what? Every one of those lynchings was against the law. Did that stop Black people from pulling Black people out their homes and setting them on fire and hanging them from trees and cutting off their genitals? And that didn't stop them, even though it was against the law. The law is not here to protect Black people, right? It's so funny how we miss the lessons of history, right? A law without enforcement is just words on paper, all right? That's all it is. If there's no way to enforce that law, then it means nothing. So they want it to be where the law is set up for certain people, for certain individuals, the law can bind them, but not protect them. And for other people, the law can protect them, but not bind them, right? So they want, for the conservative, they want to be able to have the freedom to do what they want, and have the law protect them, but you don't have the law can't be enforced. There was an episode of Simpsons one time. I used to like The Simpsons as a kid. Marge was talking to the police, and the officer was like, well, the law is powerless. And then later on in the episode, the same officer arrested her. And she said, wait, I thought you said the law was powerless. She said, yeah, powerless to protect you, not arrest you. Right. So the idea that Black people can't be deported, we're protected by the 14th Amendment, whatever. These laws are just, unless you enforce these laws, they mean nothing. Black people had the right to vote from the 15th Amendment back in 1868. But yet they still, for over 100 years, Black people could not safely vote in most of the United States. You took your life into your hands, right? Trying to vote, even though you could legally vote. So this idea that, we were citizens, but if he eliminates birthright citizenship, right, where does that leave you? If the idea that a child born on U.S. soil is no longer a citizen, who determines your citizenship is the question that nobody seems to be able to answer, right? So the idea that, it was only meant for the children of the slaves, it wasn't meant for people who come in illegally, right? There's been over 100 years of legal precedent, mainly the case of United States versus Wong Kim Ark. He was a Chinese person. He was born in California. His parents were citizens of the Empire of China, but because he was born on U.S. soil, he was considered a citizen. This question has already been answered. But again, the law means nothing if it cannot be enforced. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm done talking.
I need to ask a question. From my understanding right now, as of a week or two ago, I think we spoke about this last week. Right now, the SCOTUS only blocked states for because they were doing injunctions against Trump to do this mass deportation, but didn't SCOTUS say, well, no, they overturned that. You cannot block an EO, an executive order from the executive branch. That's, even though Trump's saying that's a win, that's not really the Supreme Court saying, well, okay, Trump is allowed to do that. From my understanding, maybe I missed something. From my understanding, if he was to say, well, you know what, this particular person that's born here is going to Jamaica or Venezuela or whatever, and if that's brought in front of the Supreme Court, then they have to make a decision as if that's constitutional. Do I have the events current right now? Or
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
So what they did, right? This whole case had nothing to do with the birthright citizenship executive order that Trump issued when he came into office. But this is something to say that the nationwide injunctions that were issued by a lower court, they exceeded their bounds, and they were intruding on the power of the executive. Now, these crackers, again, we talk about laws not being enforced. During the Biden administration, there was no issue with nationwide injunctions. When Biden tried to eliminate student loan debt, right, there was a nationwide injunction that was put in by a lower court in Missouri, right? No problems with that. But now that Trump has issued his blatantly illegal, unconstitutional executive order, the idea of the lower court issuing a nationwide injunction is now a problem. The Supreme Court saying that they are the ones who can issue a nationwide injunction, but the lower court cannot. So again, they've not touched on the issue of birthright citizenship yet. Many people are involved in class action lawsuits to bring the case further into the court. But the reality is that this order is allowed to go into effect. And if you're not a part of this class action lawsuit, this can affect you, even though it is blatantly unconstitutional. The birthright citizenship is enshrined within the 14th Amendment. If you want to change the amendment, you have to have a three-fourths majority. 3/4 of the states have to approve that. You cannot override that via an executive order. But again, the rules and the laws that are in place don't mean nothing. Anthony, I'm not a genius, man. I just teach this stuff to these kids. Hopefully, they stay off their phone long enough to learn a little something. But you know,
it even goes further back, all the way to the direct Scott decision. So right now it's the 4th of July, 4th of July, or whatever. And then you have black people here in America thinking like, okay, they're talking about they're free. I'm a man. Am I free? And the Supreme Court back then is like, nah, you a nigga. You don't have the same inalienable rights as white men.
Right, and the thing is, the 14th Amendment was created to deal with the issue of the Dred Scott decision, right? Because the Dred Scott decision stripped all black people of any hope of citizenship. They said that the black race had no rights that the white race was bound to respect, basically. So it eliminated. So prior to the Civil War, there were some states that had abolished slavery in the North. There were some states where black people who had bought their freedom from who had earned their freedom and were able to buy their freedom. So the Dred Scott decision eliminated all of that. They had almost what they call the reverse Underground Railroad. We saw in that movie 12 Years a Slave. They was getting free black people and bringing them down south. Oh, he was a slave. Oh, you got your papers? What papers? Ain't no papers.
Exactly.
Get your ass in the motherfucking field.
They used to kidnap them in the North and bring them right back to the South.
And this was July 1st through July 3rd was the Battle of Gettysburg during the Civil War. When the Southerners were marching into Pennsylvania for the battle, they were just grabbing free black people and sending them down south. So this was a common occurrence that has happened because, again, the Dred Scott decision stripped black people of all pretense of citizenship, whether they were free, whether they were not. Black people were property. And you could not be deprived of your property without due process of law. So if your property, you run away to a free state, you're still property. That does not change your status as chattel. This was the reality until the 13th and 14th Amendments. So now they're talking about changing birthright citizenship. Who's to say that this Dred Scott decision don't get revisited? Clarence Thomas has been a big fan of revisiting some previous cases and saying, "Oh, this was wrong. We got this wrong back 100 years ago." He even said the Brown versus Board of Education decision was too far.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. This is the reality.
If it wasn't for Brown versus Board of Education, Clarence Thomas wouldn't be where he is currently right now. That's the sad
Well, he
part.
helped strike down affirmative action, and he wouldn't be in that court had it not been for affirmative action.
Affirmative action.
He wouldn't have got to college and law school without affirmative action. He climbed up the ladder, then he pulled the ladder up behind him and shot everybody below him the middle finger.
Yeah, I think when the reverse railroad happens, and which is going to be taking black people nationwide, so what Trump says, we have people here for a very long time that are hitting over old women over their head with baseball bats and pushing people in front of trains. They've been here for a long time. Okay, fine. He ain't talking about people like on me and Koku and things like that. He's not talking about his Anglo or his Saxon or his Germanic people, brethren. Who do you think he's talking about? You know what I'm saying? And that kind of put a little fear in most black Americans. And even the people that call themselves FBA ADOS Freeman, they kind of got their head in the sand right now. So he's talking, and that's what I keep trying to tell people. The Tariq Nasheedites and all these people, the Yvette Carnells, they'll scream loud, "Oh, white supremacy, white supremacy." You don't understand how white supremacy works. But at the moment they say that a white man will look, matter of fact, they're doing eugenics already. They can say, well, we could tell who's a black American, who's a Jamaican, who's a Nigerian, right? So, and white supremacy, yeah, they're gonna treat black Americans different and black immigrants different. And I'm like, if that's the case, so there's no, what happened to Diallo? You know what I'm saying? You have so many other examples of black immigrants being treated badly. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? But anyway, I'll rest.
Before we get into rebuttals on the panel, if anybody has any, I think it was Black Steel that stated that the Dred Scott case was influenced or was a catalyst for the birthright citizenship laws. It's interesting because a few weeks back I had posted a link on one of these Shoot the Breeze episodes about the Prince Hall Masons, and they stand by and proclaim that Abraham Lincoln's decision to send black people to Liberia was because Abraham Lincoln was getting demanded from whites, both in the South and the North. Again, in the South and the North, and they proclaimed that they were pressuring Lincoln to send free black people. Again, it was free black people that were sent to Liberia, and they proclaim, again, Prince Hall Masons, the descendants of these guys, state that Abraham Lincoln was being pressured because the free blacks were around the enslaved blacks at that time. And what they were doing is they were causing an influence in the enslaved blacks, the dressing, also the intelligence. A lot of the free blacks at that time, they state that they had their own schools, they were making their own money, and they didn't want these free blacks to continue to influence the enslaved blacks and influence more slave rebellions on plantations. So it's interesting to, how this all ties in together. Again, I'm not a Prince Hall Mason myself, but they proclaim that. I can put that in the chat. It's a YouTube video that, again, if you guys want to watch it, please go ahead. I'll put it in the chat. But anyways, any rebuttals that we got on the panel? Black Steel, Kofi, Koku.
I don't think there's anything else really I need to add. Just to your point, one of the slavery prior to Nat Turner's rebellion in 1831, there was a rebellion that was planned by a free black man named Denmark Vesey. I believe he was from the Caribbean too. He was a free black person who he had won his freedom in the lottery, and basically, like you were saying, the idea of free blacks being around slaves, they saw it as an existential threat. They wanted to remove all free black people from the country to Liberia. There were some calls to buy Cuba from Spain, or go send black people to Haiti or someplace in Central America. So even though they used black soldiers, black troops to help win the Civil War, they were not ready for full equality for black people in the United States. That's why there was a group who were called the Radical Republicans, who wanted to punish the South harshly for starting this war and give out free land to black people, make them full citizens, voting rights, the whole 40 acres and a mule thing. Thaddeus Stevens, Charles Sumter, these are some of the people who they called the Radical Republicans. Back then, the Republican Party being the party of Lincoln and emancipation, whatever. So, but they realized that they could not deport black people from America as fast as they were being born in America. So at that point, they said, okay, we can't deport them. Also, too, 10% of the Union Army was black. They gave these black men guns. It was not going to be an easy thing to re-enslave them or deport them if they didn't want to go. So at that point, the radical faction of the Republican Party took over and put through the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. But again, laws can only be enforced. So don't have any power, they're not enforced. So once the federal government stopped deciding to enforce them, at that point we have the Jim Crow era, which is what we entered to, in 1877, once federal troops were removed from the southern states that were set to protect black people. They removed those troops, and then they let white Southerners do whatever they wanted. So even though they lost the war, they still won the peace. The Confederate ideology hasn't gone anywhere. And anybody who voted for Donald Trump, and I don't know, they seem to have forgotten what happened on January 6, 2021, when Donald Trump's supporters stormed the Capitol building trying to upset the counting of the presidential election, literally constructed a gallows to hang the vice president, and they smeared shit all over the walls of the Capitol. But yet this is who 70 million Americans decided this would be a good idea to let him have the presidency again. The call is coming.
No, they were let in. They were let in the Capitol. That's deep state propaganda.
Okay, my bad. They let him in.
All right. Did we still got you guys. Hopefully we still got you guys. Let's read some of the comments in the chat. Anthony, what's going on, Anthony, in the chat? He says that the Republican Party sold out black people during Reconstruction. Anthony also adds that 3,000 Barbadians settled in Liberia. Arthur Barkley was a Barbadian and was a president of Liberia. Even I didn't know that. Anthony also says, tell Ruto to leave my Kenyan people alone. Big dog, I wish I could talk to Ruto, man. If I did have that type of communication line with Ruto, there's a big chance I wouldn't be on this show. You know what I'm saying? I'd have bigger fish to fry. You know what I'm talking about? But Wardrum says that Clarence Thomas is the Don King of the political world. Woo! I love this show, man. You guys are amazing. What's going on, Anthony? Yeah, any last thoughts? Black Steel, Kofi, Koku, if you're still with us.
We go on to the next prompt. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm ready. Go ahead.
All right. And the fourth prompt, Shoot the Breeze topic number 4, funding the revolution. Is this a need? Is this the right strategy? Or is there a better strategy? We go ahead and go to Twitter, or excuse me, formerly Twitter, it's X now, excuse me. And it is a prompt that I can read. So I'll be reading to you guys. Please let me know if my voice is clear and precise. Let's go ahead. And the post from X comes from Black History 365, and it reads, there's a time for theories and conversations, and there's a time for action. There's a time and place for everything. Collectively, we don't seem to know anything about action. Hashtag BLA, hashtag defend our humanity. It looks like an article from Not Your Nigger, The Fury of a Hurricane, Cousin Wolf and the Comrades. In the summer of 1975, Harold Sonny Alexander, Alicia Wolf Abrams, David Bryant, head of the American Federation of Youth, and several others went on a robbing spree with the intention of funding their youth group. One of the BLA comrades told authorities they decided to rob their banks after they were unable to get loans to assist the youth. The resistant fighters hit 3 banks in all, one in Rochester, New York, one in Cincinnati, Ohio, and one in Columbus, Ohio. Although the resistance fighters were eventually captured, police never located the $30,000, equivalent to about $175,000 in 2024, from the Rochester robbery. Bryant worked for Lincoln First Bank in Rochester, and the fact may have aided the 3 armed Robin Hoods in escaping and stashing the booty. Douglas Quinn, a co-worker of Alexander, initially identified Alexander as one of the 3 robbers, but got in court and stated that the photography was blurry and looked like a number of people, including himself. According to the account in the Galleon Inquirer, the Columbus robbery resulted in a high-speed chase and 2 sheriff deputies being wounded. No civilians were harmed in any of the robberies. Again, this is Shoot the Breeze topic number 4, funding the revolution. Is this a need? Is this the right strategy? Or is there a better strategy? Don't forget that we have a Discord. There's a Discord, Bitter Medicine Podcast. You can always submit all your prompts for upcoming episodes and also connect yourself. Come on, why not? There's 99 members. You could be the 100th member. The 100th. Do you want to be the 100th? That could be you. What are you doing? You're just sitting on the couch picking your nose anyways. All right. Well, let's go with Kofi. Kofi, what say you? Funding the revolution. Is this a need? Is this the right strategy? Or is there a better strategy according to the X post that I just read?
Well, you have to be aware and cognizant of where we're having this conversation. I do not promote violence of any kind, shape, or form, right? But with that being said, salute to those soldiers. Salute to that warrior spirit. Salute to them. We're in a state of war. Those men realized we are in a state of war where I'm pretty sure Black Steel will agree with this, saying politics is basically a war, a bloodless war, a war that's, not fought with guns, but fought with ideas, but a war nonetheless. These brothers probably fought that political war, of bureaucracy and things like that, and obviously felt that they weren't getting anywhere. And they did what they did, and, they did what they did. And I don't know where that booty is, but, if they were able to fund whatever that they did what they thought that was best at the time. again, knowing where we are, whose house we're really in right now, what platform we're really in. I do not condone any violence of any sort, but they felt they did that they need to do, and they did it. And I really can't speak more on that, except for, okay, one thing I was thinking about this. I don't know if you guys remember who Chris Dorner is. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Chris Dorner was a LA cop. I think it was in the early 2000s. That's so early, probably like 2010, 2012, or something like that. And he was a police officer. He saw a lot of racism within the police department. This man did everything he's supposed to do. He reported abuse. He reported police brutality. His commanding officer pushed it to the side, did nothing. Eventually, it led to his unjustly dismissal, and he knew why he was dismissed. And he sued the department, tried to do everything he did, but of course, like these men that we're talking about, they felt that the system once again has let Black people down. So what Chris Dorner did, again, I don't advocate violence in any shape or form, but Chris Dorner took it upon himself to start killing white cops, and this is the avenue that he went down. I try to do it, the right way, but we're going to do it the hard way. Well, being one person, right? And this is what this man did. Chris Dorner was so effective. He had everybody in California in fear, to the point one time cops were arresting Black people that looked like Chris Dorner. Right, to the point I remember they had Black people I think the setting was this guy that fit his description. He had a T-shirt saying, "I am not Chris Dorner" on his T-shirt, because he was getting pulled over because he again fit the description. Chris Dorner was so effective in doing what he did that for the first time, like, Black people take pride in being the first to do this, the first to do that, which is something that's commendable. But at the same time, Black people are always the first for white people to do horrific things to them. So in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's the first time when the U.S. Air Force was ordered to bomb its own people on its own goddamn soil, right? I'm setting a parallel to Chris Dorner. Was the first time the United States of America used a drone to track down their own citizens and kill them, to the point. Look up Chris Dorner. They tracked him down in the cabin, and there's audio recording of them killing him instead of apprehending him. They denied it. They say, "Well, no, we had no choice. This is what happened." And there's audio of them saying, "Burn it, burn it." Right? When it's always us, they never take us in. So once again, I'll end it with, I do not advocate for violence of any kind or any sort, but to add to the prompt, those brothers do what they had to do. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Kofi coming in hot. I see you, Kofi. I see you, Kofi. Trigger Happy says that there's a second tweet I used for the prompt. Let's go ahead and read that as well. Apologies, Trigger Happy. Give me a moment. And the tweet reads from Philosopher King Javon, says, "To think the BLA pioneered bank robberies to fund the revolution. I guess if they were real revolutionaries, they would have embraced Black feminism and applied for a Ford grant." I'm going to try to keep my comments to myself. We have another panelist that added on. If you want to be a panelist for the rest of the show, go ahead. Reach on out. Hit the link in the chat. Put the fireworks down. Put the glizzy down. Put the hamburger down. Bakari, welcome to the show. How are you, Brother Bakari?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
What's up?
What's going on to everybody on the panel? Shit, I'm out. I can't be on it, but I heard you. The first thing you say, shit, the revolution be funded.
Yeah, the funding the revolution is need. Is this the right strategy, or is there a better strategy?
Yeah, you have to fund the revolution. Whatever it is you want to do, it take money to do it. So if you don't fund the revolution, just be on YouTube talking. Like when I hear people talk about white supremacists, people call them white supremacists. I just call them white people. Anyway, but when you hear them, the folks they are called supreme white folks. In their mind, they're better behind. I've documented bad faith. A documentary called God.
Brother Bakari, can you hear me?
Yeah.
You're lagging big time. You're lagging big time. Do you want to sign back out and sign back in? Try to see. All right. When you come back, just let me know. We'll go ahead and Black Steel. What say you? Funding the revolution, is this a need? Is this the right strategy, or is there a better strategy?
Well, of course, there's a need to fund the revolution, right? The revolution is not going to be funded through, bake sales and passing the collection plate around, right? But I will say this too, though. The Black Liberation Army, right? What they did, they rose to the demand that was necessary, right? So they believed in basically waging war against the United States. They believed the United States government was the enemy of Black people, not just in the United States, but in the entire world. So they believed in causing a insurgent group, right, to create warfare, guerrilla warfare in the United States. Was it the right strategy? I believe that was a strategy they felt was best, right? Desperate times call for desperate measures, right? You have to understand the late 60s, early 70s, 80s. This was a reversal of all of the gains of the civil rights movement, right? So not only are our leaders, you have Medgar Evers killed, Malcolm X killed, Dr. King killed, Fred Hampton murdered, Stokely Carmichael exiled, had to leave the country. The Black Panther Party members getting killed. So the United States, especially the FBI, they had made a declaration. If these Black people, if these Black youth want to be revolutionaries, then they will be dead revolutionaries, right? So Black people taking up a stance, an armed stance, a militant stance would have you marked for death. Look what happened to Assata Shakur. The only reason Assata is still with us is because she had to flee to Cuba. So many of our revolutionaries, I mean, there's still Black Panthers who are in prison now. Look at Mumia Abu Jamal. I hate when we talk about Diddy, but we don't mention our real revolutionaries. Mumia still in jail. H. Rap Brown still in jail. But yeah, just overall, just looking at the society, those people, they responded in a way they felt was necessary because the state had already determined that these Black people, if they were to try to be revolutionary or attempt to assert their freedom, they were marked for death, and they responded in that way. They felt it was necessary. I'm not going to argue the rights and the wrongs or the merits. They felt it was necessary to do these things. And I think but the second part of the prompt, I think, is hilarious because it shows how COINTELPRO has been used to basically take the Black revolutionary spirit of the 60s and 70s, and it kind of funneled that energy into Black feminism. Now the enemy is not white people. The enemy is not white hegemony. The enemy is patriarchy. And Black men, I'm saying this in air quotes, so please don't let it jump me. Black men also participate in patriarchy, quote unquote. So the focus is no longer about Black revolutionary energy, but now it's about how can we accelerate within the system, right? And we see that with the whole Black Lives Matter thing. The Black Lives Matter started back when they murdered these black people, the Freddie Gray and Michael Brown and all that other stuff. But then here we are talking about, oh, black men are the white people of black people. What? What? But see, that's what happened when our revolutionaries were murdered. And then not just the revolutionaries, but the ideology, the knowledge was suppressed or seen as patriarchal, anti-woman, black feminism. A black woman, they just come up with these ideas to put black people at odds with one another. Black feminism is very much a tool of COINTELPRO. One of the leading second wave feminist, Gloria Steinem, was a CIA agent, and she admits that she don't lie. She's proud of it. But yet here we have funneled this black revolutionary thought and impetus, and now it's been suppressed under COINTELPRO. Counterintelligence program was not just about stopping black revolution, but it was preventing any black revolutionaries being born or being able to organize. It was the idea of the fear of a rise of a black messiah. This is why King was targeted, X was targeted, Kwame Ture was targeted, Fred Hampton was targeted, Huey P. Newton was targeted. These are all these people that were singled out. And now you have people online talking about, oh, well, Dr. King cheated on his wife, which is a lie created by the FBI. Frederick Douglass, he cheated on his wife and had the white woman move into the house, which was a lie, But yet here we are regurgitating these lies. It's so disturbing to me how far deeply rooted COINTELPRO is. I'll stop there. Thanks.
Yes, a lot going on, especially those individuals that you pointed out. Their assassinations were funded. So then it leads us to ask, if our assassinations are funded, should our offenses also be funded? Brother Bakari, want to hear your thoughts. Welcome back.
Can you hear me now?
Very clear. Go ahead.
Okay, because I'm out on the bottom. I hit a bad spot. My bad. What's up, everybody? Like I said, I've been in and out, but I really haven't heard anyone answer the question about should our revolution be funded. So the answer to that question is yes, it should be funded. And if it's anything that you want done, if you're gonna go to war, it's gonna take money. And there's a lot of different levels of war. Even if it's a boycott, it needs to be funded. We're talking about supporting and promoting black businesses need to be funded. If we talking about being on the offense, have to use our weapons to stop them from, because I get tired of us. We can always talk about us being killed. So if we have to use our gun to stop them from killing us, yes, that have to be funded. War Drum put in the chat, War Drum said our millionaires have let us down. I absolutely agree with that. They have let us down. But we also have to understand that since they have let us down, why are we still looking to them? Why are we still celebrating them? Why are we still supporting them? It's more of us than it is them. Is it an uphill battle? Yes, it's an uphill battle. But like I was saying earlier, the people that most people call white supremacists, supreme white folks, I don't use that terminology, but when I named a couple of one bad faith, one God and country. And you can see 2023, those people raised $1.6 billion for the things that they want to do. So that means their millionaires was involved in giving a lot of money for them to raise $1.6 billion. So when you come out here in the business sector and you see these other groups of people coming up with money to start businesses, everybody fund everybody fund the revolution. You have to be able to fund the revolution. We have to be able to fund the businesses. We have to be able to fund the things not that we want to do, but the things that we have to do. How can we build a community or a society for ourselves and we are not and it's not being funded? See, other people are funding, we're on social media talking. And that's the difference. I'm here too. That's why I said we. But that's why I always said the streets, you pound the pavement, and the streets is gonna have to start being more important, or at least just as important as social media. Again, the streets is where when our people was out here doing work, when we were out here doing work, we was getting movements started and doing things because people were in the streets. We ain't in the streets no more. We're on social media. We're on social media talking. And I'm not knocking because I'm on social media. But what I'm saying is we have to hit the streets just as much. And if we hit the streets just as much, some of the things that we need to be funded, we can fund, or we should be funded, or we stay in this position and our grandkids will be complaining about the same thing, great grandkids, same thing, great 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Our line, our lineage would still be complaining. Yeah, we African people, but why we ain't got nothing done? You know, hey, then they can look back and say, wow, you know what? There was a lot of people talking on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, but there were not enough people in the streets trying to get it done. I yield the mic.
In the streets getting it done. Yeah. That we were. We have evidence of that. Before we go to our last panelist, shoot the breeze topic number 4. Trigger Happy says, now we have to talk about the commerce class and money. How do you get that back as a means to build larger organizational power, or do you start small? He also states, the only way Black people get anything moving in terms of things like statue seizure or state seizure, nation building, or military, you need money. You need money. You need money. Peso o tas. No. Better Medicine asks, has anyone have any BLA pamphlets, books, PDs, etc.? Kofi, what say you? Should we fund the revolution? Is this a need? Is this the right strategy? Or is there a better strategy?
Maybe he stepped away for a moment.
Yeah. All right. Black Steel, any
I'm just going to say that, yeah, it's a need, but also too, I want to say that revolution is something that is intellectual, right? It doesn't just start with just money, but you have to have a mindset. There has to be a foundation of revolution. It has to be built up, right? And money is important, but it's not the end all be all because you have to have the right ideology. And I think that's what's missing is that ideologically, Black people are not prepared to challenge the system, right? They're not prepared they don't even believe it can happen because of what has happened to so many of our revolutionaries, right? The ideas of revolution has to be built up within the people, right? Revolution comes from the bottom up. So like Bakari said, you got to hit the streets, right? But also too, the needs of the people have to be met by our revolutionaries. So Black people who are mainly Black people are poor, right? What are we doing to meet those needs? How are we going to, like the Black Panther Party, who probably might have been one of the first Black revolutionaries? How did they meet the needs of the people? They had some what they call survival programs, survival programs pending revolution, right? And the survival programs that were put in place by the Black Panthers were more of a threat and all the bank robberies, all of the protests, because that was spreading the ideas of revolution. People would go in there to get a meal, but they would also be educated, right? And that is, I think, is a part of the piece we're missing, is the community outreach. So money does factor, but it's not the only, I would even say it's not the most important factor. Because how much money did the Haitians have when they during the Haitian Revolution? They didn't have any money, but they had the right ideology. And I think that's kind of where I would say money is important, but it's not the most important thing. I'll leave it there.
Bakari, oh, Black Steel.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Bakari, any rebuttals? Any other statements?
Well, I understand what Black Steel is saying, but like, we can't meet the needs of the people if we don't have the money. This system we're in, you can't meet the needs of the people. Even with the Black Panthers, they were able to feed people because they had to get the money to get the food. Especially this day and time with this regime that we are under right now, shit ain't no 501c3 that's gonna be helping you fund anything. But I understand what he's saying about first you have to get the right ideology, you have to educate the people. But yeah, that go right there with the money for me. But yeah, but we're gonna need the money. And I know he didn't say we were not gonna need the money. He was just trying to put things in order. But and I understand exactly what he meant about education. But the education and the money for me, all that is up there together. In this day and time, yeah, we need to meet the needs of the people mentally. We need to meet the needs of the people some ways financially, because when people get hungry, it's an old song, what people do for money. So we can do all the talk and we can do all that, but if we ain't meeting the needs of the people, we gonna be calling several more Black people sellouts. I yield the mic.
Yeah. Trigger Happy says, I will say you can't get the business class to do anything for you. You need something else or build one. He also adds that enslavement induces the need to fight because you are being whipped and starved. There were also Maroons who can steal weapons. You can't do Maroonage in 2025. Black Steel? Or Brother Bakari, go ahead. Go ahead, it's open.
Oh no, I'm good. We can move on to the next topic. I think we're in agreement on this. Honestly, I think we pretty much agree. We may not agree on the order, but I think we're overall in agreement in what's necessary.
Yep, you're right. We do agree. I just gonna say something about the business class right quick, and I agree with Trigger Happy on that. But if you hit the streets, you will find there are some Black businesses that's willing to give to the things that you do. Trust me, I know. I go out here and when you hit these streets and you go talk to the Black people, especially the Black businesses that doing good that we support, you will see there's a lot of these people in the business class that will support us.
True indeed. All right. And we go to our final Shoot the Breeze topic, number 5. And it is there a better way to co-parent and raise Black boys? This prompt comes with a video from X. Once again, a video from X. Bear with me.
You have children, specifically boys, that are under the age of 8. They're 6, 7, 8. And you are a single mama raising those boys alone. And there is a father that is active and present. He paying child support He come get them on their weekends. He's there at the football game, basketball games. He calling, checking on them every day. He is a good daddy. Before those boys turn 10, I need you to let those children live with their father. Hear me out. You are a woman. You cannot teach those young men how to become young men. Their fathers need to do that. The more that kids are around us, the more they pick up our mannerisms, our behaviors, our habits, because we're the teachers. They are imprinting on us like little ducklings. They're doing everything that we do. They need to be around men to see what men do. And I know somewhere in your mind, you are going to feel like, oh, I'm so shamed. My son doesn't live with me anymore. He lives with his daddy. I must be a bad mom. Absolutely not. You have done 8 years. Now it's time for your child's father to do 8 years, 10 years, whatever's left. When boys get to a certain age, they need to live with their daddies. Cancel the child support. Send that child with the father. And then you are able to go and work. And now you need to be sending some child support money over to that man. You need to be helping with buying clothes, sports, extracurriculars, because that is what is best for your child. That child needs to be with his loving father to become a young man.
We'll play this one more time.
You have children, specifically boys, that are under the age of 8. They're 6, 7, 8. And you are a single mama raising those boys alone. And there is a father that is active and present. He paying child support. He come get them on their weekends. He's there at the football game, basketball games. He calling, checking on them every day. He is a good daddy. Before those boys turn 10, I need you to let those children live with their father. Hear me out. You are a woman. You cannot teach those young men how to become young men. Their fathers need to do that. The more that kids are around us, the more they pick up our mannerisms, our behaviors, our habits, because we're the teachers. They are imprinting on us like little ducklings. They're doing everything that we do. They need to be around men to see what men do. And I know somewhere in your mind, you are going to feel like, oh, I'm so shamed. My son doesn't live with me anymore. He lives with his daddy. I must be a bad mom. Absolutely not. You have done 8 years. Now it's time for your child's father to do 8 years, 10 years, whatever's left. When boys get to a certain age, they need to live with their daddies. Cancel the child support. Send that child with the father. And then you are able to go and work. And now you need to be sending some child support money over to that man. You need to be helping with buying clothes, sports, extracurriculars, because that is what is best for your child. That child needs to be with his loving father to become a young man.
Little black boys and little black girls. That also reminds me of a song. Huh? Hey, my baby mama. And that's it. Pay child support. Yo, Shoot the Breeze topic number 5. Is there a better way to co-parent and raise black boys? I feel like we need Dr. Umar on this panel, man. This is all he talks about. We're going to start with Brother Bakari. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5. Is there a better way to co-parent and raise black boys? He's my baby mama, and I'll pay child support.
But hey, I agree to a point what she's saying. For me, I tell people I'm a professional single dad, right? I had my oldest child at 19. He came to stay with me when I was 24. He was 5 years old. Then I got married. I brought one child in, and she brought one child in, and me and her we had 3 together. Our oldest together passed away. So then we had 2 kids together. Then she passed away. Now the kids need a mama and a daddy. Even that boy, even that young man, just from my experience, yes, he need to be around daddy so daddy can teach him to be a man. But he also need to be around mother, because a mother is a nurturer, and a mother gonna do things that the father and it's just like the daughter. The daughter needs the man too. They also need the woman. So the child need to be, if possible, a loving two-parent household. Be it the man, if you saying co-parent, be it the other parent, then the father has met another woman, a good woman, and they got married, and she accept and bring the kids in, bring his son in like they're her sons, and the baby mama and their daughter, that man need to make sure that they don't have to be best friends, but they do need to be cordial and need to speak, because now that child has two mothers. The mother of that child should be able to call the home and not just talk to the father, but talk to the mother about that son, because the child need both. The son need his mother just like he need his father. The mother cannot teach him to be a man because she's not a man. You're going to take a man to do that. But in order for that person to come out, my opinion, you're gonna need both. You're gonna need both energies. That's my opinion on that. And yes, there's the good way for me. When I say co-parent, when my kid's mother was alive and her oldest daughter, I wanted to meet her father because I wanted her father to know, even though he was an active and not nearly as active as he should have been, but I wanted to meet him and become cordial with him because I wanted that man to know that his daughter is going to be okay in the house with me. I'm not going to harm your daughter. I treat her, know that she's my daughter now, so she's just like my blood. And for me, I think that's how it should be. And I tried that with my oldest son mother and my with my late wife and my oldest son mother. She wasn't as receptive to it as my wife was. I know she came to pick my son up one time and I was at work, and my wife invited her in the house, come look at his room. I want you to know that I take care of your son, that we take care of your son, and I'm treating him. I don't want to come in your house, so but it has to be both ways, and those parents gonna have to know how to be cordial and talk to one another. You don't have to be best friends, but you do need to be respectful. Even if you don't want to, you have to be respectful for the child's sake. On that, I get a mic.
Man, that's a lot to go through, Brother Bakari. Black Steel, what say you? Is there a better way to co-parent and raise black boys?
Well, ideally, mother and father are still together, right? In a perfect world, they're still together. They're raising the family together. But you know what? The world we live in is not perfect. So sometimes relationships don't work out. And it's unfortunate, but they don't always work out. I feel like you got to take ego out of the equation, right? Some people don't want to let go of the ego, right? The idea that, oh, I got another person around my child, or my child, like she mentioned in the video, there's a shame coming from, oh, the child lives with his father, like I'm a bad mother. And you're not, right? You're not a bad parent if the child has to go live with the other parent. I don't believe that's the case at all. Like Bakari, my son is 21 now, but he's lived with me since he was 3. And when me and his mother we ended our relationship, he asked to come live with me. He told him I want to live with my daddy. And she was like, okay, call me up, come get him. And that was it. It was never an issue. But also too, when we were together, I worked overnight. So during the day I had him because daycare was so expensive. Um, I would just work at night and stay home with the baby during the day. I didn't get much sleep. But it was a sacrifice that I decided to make. But I think that many times people let their emotions get in the way of what's always doing what's best for the children. That's my child. That's my this. Your children are not your personal property, right? They do not belong to you. They come here through us, and we're required to nurture them and raise them. But they are their own people, and many times people have to put aside their feelings and do what's best for the children in the situation. So if even if the relationship doesn't work out, if the mother wants to, hey, and this is what I've seen, what happens in a lot of cases, right? There's a thing called parental alienation, right? The parents break up, one parent might be have ill feelings, they're keeping the child away. Now, if it's an issue of safety, keep that child away from them, right? If there's a threat of danger, the child being hurt, then keep that child safe. But many times it's not an issue of danger, right? It's just I don't like that new bitch he's with. I don't want my child around that nigga, you know? So who does he think he is? They're still hurt, the relationship ended, the feelings are raw in that situation, right? So they may keep that child, but then what happens, especially if you have a boy, he starts to get angry. He starts to become resentful. Now he's bigger than his mother, right? Who is he gonna tell? You can't tell me what to do. I'm bigger than you now. Now she wants to call, come get him. I can't control it, come get him. That child's 14, 15 years old. So now you got 3 years before he's 18. How is it that you're expected to completely right that ship now that his mother or whoever has been kept away? And who knows what type of ill feelings, ill things she may have said. Your daddy ain't no good. Your daddy don't care about you. You just like your black ass daddy, you know? So now this child has been hearing this stuff for their whole life. Now you gonna drop them off with the same father that they hated, that you hated, and expect them to work miracles. It don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Um, but it's I think that um what she's talking about is I don't disagree with it. Um, child support, I would like to think that things can be resolved without having to resort to the court system. Um, it's the hope that they can be resolved without having to get involved with the law and garnishing wages and so on and so forth, right? Because it's so funny to me. We all recognize the courts are genuinely unfair and they're not favorable to Black people. When it comes to family court, all of a sudden it's all fair and equitable, right? And it's not. I would like to think that we can resolve the issues without having to resort to um, the law. And there's going to be some cases where you may have to. It's unfortunate. There are some men who feel like they don't have to contribute to their child's life, be it financially in any other way. And in this situation, well, if you want to go scorch earth, it is what it is. But if you have a situation where you can resolve the issue without child support, then the court getting involved, then do so without custody and visitation. These are just complicated matters. It was never a matter of, hey, click the court involved. Just come get your kid, man. You want to see him, come see him. No big deal. And children need that male energy. I was with my nephew earlier and I was putting on a shower head and all he could do was say, "Can I help? Can I help? Can you help me? Can I help? Oh, can I do this? Can I do this?" And I had got my toolbox and I told him, "Hand me the pliers." This boy don't know. He's 2 years old. He don't know what pliers are. He's just handing me stuff. He's handing me the tape measure. He's handing me the socket wrench. He's handing me the 10 millimeter attachment, just handing me stuff. But just the idea he's with a man, he's with his uncle, working together with tools. I got to buy him a tool set for the holiday coming up. Just they need that energy because it's so fundamental to their growth. A lot of times, especially in schools, boys are seen as a problem. Boys tend to have energy. They're very hands-on. They're very tactile learners. And the school doesn't always reward that. They reward the people who sit down at your desk, do the worksheet, take the notes. That type of learning isn't always best for everybody, especially our boys. for Black boys. They're facing so many hurdles in their life just by just being Black. Just being a boy seems a threat because Black boys become Black men, right? So I like this idea, but I do think that let's try to keep the chorus out of it. Try to stay together. That's what I would say. Let's try to stay together. Let's try to keep our families intact. Well, we don't got to resort to custody and visitation and child support. And even if things don't work out, try to be amicable without having to get people involved in your business. Because once they're involved, they're never leaving. So that's my thoughts. Thanks to Jack Adele.
I appreciate you, Black Steel, but I gotta ask, why they gotta say like your black ass daddy? Why the daddy gotta be a black ass?
Yo, because blackness is negative, man. Blackness is negative. It's unfortunate, but to be seen as your black ass daddy. Nobody talk about your light skinned ass daddy. Nobody says that. It's your black ass daddy.
Black Steel, you ain't right. You ain't right. So wrong with you, Black Steel. Yo, Kofi, welcome to the show. How are you, Kofi?
Yo, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. No one say go to your light skinned ass, you high yellow daddy. That's not a thing. That's not a thing.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing good, but like same thing. Just to end on what Black Steel says. If anyone know who Dr. Joy DeGruy is, she pretty much said growing up in LA and stuff like that. She grew up in pretty much pro-black home. My father was like a Muslim of 5% and things like that. And in their home, they were always taught, that black is beautiful, blackness is power. But she said when you go out in the playground and everything, when people playing the dozens or whatever stuff like that, they'd be like, "Your black ass ain't it. You so black." And her coming from that home, she's like, why we all black? Why are you guys using black in such a negative connotation? And it always, because black is just always negative. So when he said that, that's why that's just popped into my head. But I mean, I really don't have that much to say on Black Steel. Pretty much as always covered everything and did an excellent job in doing that. Me being a married man, I don't have that issues or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I could probably talk more towards my younger brother, in a way. And when this prompt came up, it just reminded me of Boys in the Hood. Remember, Boys in the Hood, he had Cuba Gooding Jr., he was living with his mother. And Angela Bassett was his mother. And he went over to Morpheus, a.k.a. Lawrence Fishburne, was like, hey, look, you have come of age. You are a certain age now. As your mother, you know what I'm saying? I'm obviously freestyling and paraphrasing here. As your mother, I have nurtured you. As what a mother's job is to do, to nurture you. But I have now nurtured you to manhood. I'm not a man. I don't know how to raise a man. You know what I'm saying? This is where your father, which is a teacher, just like Black Steel, this is where your father comes into play. Because you need to be groomed into a productive young man. So again, me being the 80s, 90s baby, I found that very interesting. I was like, wow, if I was ever to get a divorce, that was me in my situation. I hope that will be something that would happen. You know what I'm saying? Because I love my children. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even one day, different story. I missed Father's Day for the first day due to some circumstances that I couldn't even deal with. I was just trapped in a situation where I couldn't see my kids for holiday, and that killed me. That was like 5 years ago, so I want to be in my children's life. But I'm saying that to say those examples that Black Steel gave were very good. And using, like I said, I was using my brother for instance, because my brother and I, we have different fathers or whatever, but his father was not active in his life as my father was. And I was talking about this yesterday, and people tell me not to beat up myself because life happens. I was dating my wife. Then we got engaged, and I kind of had my own life, but I still beat up myself because I feel if I was there around, like a man figure to be around more often. So my brother's doing well, he's doing good, but certain ideologies that he has about relationships and what is it to be an actual man is extremely distorted. You know, so even when there's a saying, am I my brother's keeper? I'm saying that's what rings true in my mind. And we have to again, from an aspect from where I'm coming from, you even have to be there. You have to just be there for them. Like Black still get an example with the tools of dating, of racial pride, because in these days nowadays you don't know what type of internet rabbit hole these kids going, and they're just listening to Andrew Tate, and they're probably listening to people like Jesse Lee Peterson and Tim Scott, and all, you don't know what they're ingesting in this internet. And as a mother, as a woman, you really can't come to them as a man. You know what I'm saying? When my daughter has certain questions for me, even when my sister has certain questions for me, I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you as a woman how to do. I can tell you from a man's perspective, but you don't need a man's perspective. Right now, you need a woman's perspective. Right now, go to your aunt. You know what I'm saying? Go to someone else that's a little bit older than you. But this is very important. Like I said, I can't really talk too much towards the single parent thing or whatever. But yes, we do need a lot of older men need to be in their children's life. If you don't have, like, let's say father's a deadbeat, if you got uncles, you know what I'm saying, or a family friend, that person needs to be around as a shining example as manhood, on as far as like knowing what it means to be a man, as far as like having a girlfriend, as far as like being a husband, being a provider, all those things that make a man, and that's pretty much it.
Kofi, man, that's yeah, and it's stories like yourself that definitely give me a lot to think about. Black Steel, any rebuttals or any added comments to what Kofi has stated?
Nothing really to add, man. I really hope that it doesn't have to get this far though. But we got to understand that Black people have always, the Black family has been under attack since slavery, right? And what we had to do back then, when we didn't have any control over our relations, parents could be separated from children, family members could be separated, and there was nothing that we could do about it, right? So we created our own family. We every adult became an aunt or uncle, right? Every person became our brother, our cousin, our sister, our brother, right? And that's something that goes back even to Africa. There was many societies in Africa, the children belonged to the village. There were no orphans, right? And I believe this family structure help us sustain ourselves in ways that many other people who were encountered these crackers could not sustain and survive. So I think that what we see now is just a continuation of the war on Black families, because they understand that it is our family structure that has enabled us to survive the way it has. And many of these are young people, if they don't have a father or a mother, right? There was always somebody they could talk to or look up to, or somebody they communicate with or interact with. So it bothers me when now people are becoming, well, that's my baby, you can't say nothing to him, I can't do this, you can't do that. And it just helps alienate our people from who we naturally are. And what she's saying, I don't disagree with what she's saying here. In that case, give that child to the father. If he needs to raise, teach him up in manly ways. I don't disagree with that. I just hate the fact that it's gotten to the point to where, if y'all doing all this, why can't y'all work it out, right? Maybe y'all problems can be resolved without your guys having to break up and split apart. Because the individualism that is in the society is destroying us, right? And we're about to go through some tough times. Black people have always had it tough. White people catch the cold, black people get pneumonia. We're staring down the barrel of some really tough times coming up very soon. We're all we got. We're all we got. Let's see what we can do before it gets to the point where visitation and court involved. I would rather not have to see the inside of a courtroom ever again as long as I live personally. So let's see if we can resolve this. But other than that, I don't disagree with her at all. And I think it's a very important conversation to have because we are letting individualism break apart our communities. And we're in a precarious situation where we need all hands on deck for our people. We're not going to be able to save everybody. I prefer to let the FBA dudes rot on the vine wherever they're at. Let them go off somewhere. But for those of us who are aware, who are conscious and we need each other. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Black Steel. Before we get into our last panelist thoughts, let's read some of these comments. Wardrum says that the parents versus teachers now, of course, all teachers are not good, but they certainly aren't all bad. Mothers know their kids. Mothers know their kids are bad, but justify it with their own ignorance. I don't know who's more funny in the chat, if it's Wardrum or Trigger Happy. Ignorant moms. That's crazy. Trigger Happy says, yep, the village is being replaced by hyper individualism. Wardrum, you still got me laughing. That's funny.
Wardrum, but hold on. Wardrum touched on something that's very important. These parents are young, right? So these parents are coming, they're having their kids as 15, 16, 17 years old. These people are literally growing up alongside their kids. They don't see their children as their children. They see them as their friend, right? And as they grow up, children need discipline. Children need structure. A lot of times, many people are coming from bad childhood environments, right? And sometimes they overcorrect, right? There's correction, but they go too far. So then when you go into a system where now somebody, be it a teacher or a counselor, is putting some boundaries on that child, because children crave boundaries. Children want to know exactly just how far and just how much they can get away with. When I first started teaching my first year, I didn't put boundaries on them kids. Man, I wanted to slit my wrists. Okay, it was terrible. When I started, okay, now we got some boundaries. Now the rules is in place. The rules is on the wall. No eating in my class. Put your phone away. No talking. No, then now I had to put some boundaries in place. Some of the kids didn't like it. Okay. Oh, so he's mean. He don't let us do that. But you know what? Now you're not going to be allowed to prevent other people from learning. You're not going to be allowed to be a disruption. And these kids have been allowed to do whatever they want to. Ain't nobody finna tell my baby what to do. My baby can go to the bathroom when he want to go to the bathroom. Okay, now your child goes to the bathroom. He gone for 30 minutes. He's smoking in the bathroom. Come back smelling like a dispensary. Then you want to come in while he failing your class? Because he's high every day, ma'am. That's why he's failing my class. But you don't want me to put no boundaries on him, right? So what he's talking about is a reality. Is that sometimes the parents, they overcompensate for the way that they have been raised. I've noticed this, especially people who had any type of abuse in their life. They were abused as a child. They want to protect their child from being abused. It's an admirable thing, but sometimes you go too far, right? Because we do need the village. You don't exist in a vacuum. We need each other. So how is that only you can tell your child what to do? Well, you take that little motherfucker, you raise him yourself there. You keep him, you homeschool him. You play with him on the playground. Other than that, human beings, we need to be able to organize and be able to integrate and live with each other, right? Especially Black people. We know how to relate to other Black people. Because, like Kofi said, there's a lot of bad information on the internet. People, young people surfing the web. Who knows? They might come across a Charleston White. They might come across what's the one dude? Andrew Tate or whatever, the Hodge twins, right? These new coons. And if there's no Black adult within their radius to teach them that, to teach them the opposite, then they're going to become adults. Remember that young Black man who became a school shooter. He killed himself, right? But he killed some of his classmates. He hated being Black. He said himself, I hate being Black. I hate being round. I hate my lips. I've heard students themselves say, I hate having nigger hair. It's a girl, a Black girl, say that. I hate having nigger hair. What? Who taught you this was nigger hair? Who taught you your hair was bad, right? But these children are getting this because the parents aren't the only influence. And we have to course correct our people.
Man, true indeed. Black Steel, you started it with Black ass Dandy, and then come and get your motherfucker from the playground. Black Steel, man, I love you, man. Let's read some of these comments as well before we get into our last panelist thoughts. Do we have much? Wardrum says we no longer have a village. Tough. Brother Bakari, what say you? And before, Brother Bakari, before you go, this is our last shoot.
Wait, didn't Bakari already go? He already went.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. If there's any women, especially mothers, you want to get on the last, you want to get your last 2 cents in here, we'd love to hear directly from you. I mean, this is about parenthood, and can't have parenthood without motherhood, no matter what anybody says. Wardrum adds, there are boundaries in the real world, and if they never have them, they run rampant as adults. He also adds, and Black Steel was spitting. Speaking of spitting, while we see if maybe we can get a woman on the panel, all this talk about children and fathers and mothers reminds me of more simpler times. Let's see if we can't get banned.
It's my baby mama. I want y'all support. She get reverend checks, but I stay in court.
Hey,
it's my baby mama.
All right. It's not.
Hey man, that's funny. That's
let's not get YouTube copyright strike. But any last thoughts, Brother Bakari, Kofi, Black Steel, on this? Is there a better way to co-parent? Last thoughts? All right. Well, if there isn't any last thoughts, that shoot the breeze.
Deport them kids, man. Deport them. I will vote for Donald Trump. I just want to pop back in real quick. I just want to say, I think the prompt was a sensible prompt when everything else breaks down and you have to co-parent. I just thought it was a good idea. I thought it was a good idea. I couldn't disagree with her, and I can't disagree with you guys either. I think Black Steel nailed it on the head when he said, let's try to avoid the court situation. Let's work it out between each other and support financially when the other, take those turns and stuff like that, because it's a tough economy on Black folks, considering we don't control an economy for ourselves. It reminded me real quick. I saw a post. I thought I reposted on my Twitter, but I guess I didn't. Saw a post today where a kid who's like a YouTuber was somewhere and he looked out of a window and he saw a man sitting on a bench and he said, "Oh man, I think that's my dad. I haven't seen him in many years or whatever, 20 years or something like that." And he goes outside and he approaches the guy and he says, "Yo, what's your name?" And the guy looks at him and says his name. he says the kid's name because him and the kid share first name, middle name, and last. And it was this weird reunion. And, you know, there's probably, I don't want to give the guy any excuses, the father excuses, but it seemed like he may have been suffering some mental health and, you know, financial problems and stuff like that. But the sad part of it was like, you know, where was his family too? Like some of you mentioned, I think Kofi might have mentioned this. Where was his family, the father's family, when he couldn't handle the task? And apparently he had like 2 other children with the kid's mom too. So it was like 3 of them at least. You know, where was his family? Someone, a good friend, someone who could have stepped in and kind of helped. And that's where the village thing, we've kind of lost sight of that now. And that's something that we should be talking about a little bit more. How do we create the Black safety net, the safety net of family and extended family and what's the term they used to use again? Guardianship and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I like what the sister said in the video, and I agree with her, but I also agree with many of what you guys had to say. And that's my spiel on that topic for tonight.
Appreciate you, Koku, Black Steel, Kofi, Brother Bakari, Oni, and anybody else that I might be forgetting that joined the panel. I thank you guys. That was Shoot the Breeze, topic number 5. You know what that means. You know what that means. We got shout outs. So let's go ahead and let's get into the shout outs. Brother Bakari, what's your shout out for tonight?
Let me shout out Bitter Medicine Podcast. Cool, and I hope your pops is doing better. When I say Bitter Medicine Podcast, everybody that's on the panel tonight and who's normally on the panel. And I'm gonna give a shout out to Black Steel, man. He was kind of strange tonight. Me and Black Steel normally bump heads, man. We was agreeing too much, damn it. So next time I'm gonna have to get back to my old self just to go against the grain against Black Steel. But this was a great panel and I enjoyed it. And I give a shout out to everybody here on here. That's my shout out. And the shout out, I'm gonna shout out one more. The future of our kids is in our hand, our educators. And that's another shout out to Black Steel. So we know how this school system is. So we need to be taking up money so we can get good teachers like Black Steel and we can pay them to come. If we set up in our kids' homeschool so we can have some type of school so they can deal with other kids at least twice a week, so we can give good people like Black Steel $1,500, $2,000 a month for coming through a couple times a week and dealing with our kids for part-time in a classroom setting. That's what we need to do. So I'm gonna shout out teachers like Black Steel because I know if we can come up with the money, I know Black Steel will be willing to do it. On that, I yield the mic.
Yeah, shout out to all the teachers out there, and especially Black Steel, because why not? You know, representation matters, and it's always awesome when you have somebody that's educating you that looks like you. Black Steel, I don't know if you know, well, you might know. I grew up here in the upper Midwest, and I never had a Black teacher, ever, male or female. Never had a Black teacher.
They were all white women, weren't they?
White women, yeah, most of them, white women and white men. Yeah. And imagine I grew up in a mixed neighborhood. Imagine that.
Well, I mean, the income is one thing. You know, many times Black educators are, especially Black men, we're disciplinarians, right? We have to. They want us to go in there and be disciplinarians, and for the pay and breaking up fights and all the other stuff. We don't really get an opportunity to educate. But yeah, we do have to control our future. And they've made it so to where the curriculum has been, now we have to teach about, the benefits of slavery and things like that. It's not so much education, it's more of indoctrination that bothers me. I may not be able to say what I want to say, but it really depends on where you teach at, because especially you live in teach at a Title I school, which is a school that receives a large amount of kids who get free lunch. There's not, you tend to have a little bit more leeway than if you were at a school where, there's a lot more money involved. It's unfortunate. That's the reality. But really quick, for my shout outs, I want to shout out my uncle. My uncle Isaiah passed away. Went to the funeral today. So remembering him. And very good show tonight. Shout out to the Bitter Medicine podcast. I like having Koku as a guest. Not to say he's a bad host, but it's always good for to hear Koku on the other side of that mic as a panelist. I enjoy that. Not to say that he's a wonderful host, but also to like to have that dimension of his intellect explored. So shout out to everybody here.
Shout out to you indeed, Black Steel, and thank you again for your service. Kofi, what say you? What's your shout outs?
Yeah, I'm going to pretty much piggyback on Brother Harvey said. Shout out to Black Steel as a teacher. My wife's a teacher, so I really do appreciate the hard work that they put in. It's pretty much a thankless job. Black Steel, we need to talk. we need to talk. About education, how the education system is in Florida, it being a red state. Blue states is not that great as far as the curriculum, but that's another story. But I basically just want to shout out to Black people, around the world, just being resilient, especially here in America. Just your resilience, our resilience of, dealing with everything that's going on, and pretty much all we have is us. Like Dr. Clark says, we have no friends.
We have no friends indeed. Pan-Africanism or perish. Brother Koku, if you're still on, what say you? What's your shout outs for the night?
I will vote for Donald Trump. I want to shout out to all you guys. I want to shout out all you guys for real, man. You guys held it down tonight. I was listening in the chat most of the night. Jacadero did his thing again, but you guys together were great. I didn't even need to really be here. At first, I thought the show was going to be like an hour and a half, but you guys really did your thing, expanded and expounded on the topics. And you guys in the chat, want to shout you guys out, particularly War Drum. War Drum was particularly active tonight. Trigger Happy, as always, was active. Shout out to the folks who aren't here tonight as well. I'm sure there's a good reason. By the way, shout out to Anthony McPhail's mom who had an accident and he's taking care of her tonight. So shout out to all of you guys, man. Hope to see you guys next week. Peace.
Appreciate you, Koku. As far as my shout outs, of course, I'm part of a larger organization here in Omaha, Nebraska, the birthplace of Malcolm X, and it's called the Empowerment Network that you see on your screen if you're watching us here on YouTube. The Empowerment Network, we are the largest Black organization empowering those that can here in Omaha, Nebraska, and the greater area. Sister cities including Tulsa, Oklahoma, Cincinnati, Ohio, Memphis, Tennessee, Houston, Texas, and St. Louis, Missouri. So if you don't already know, the Empowerment Network at theempowermentnetwork.com, the official website of the largest Black organization here in the Midwest. And also shout out to Koku, the Bitter Medicine Podcast, and KWAZ Radio for allowing me to co-host and take over and be a part of this in each and every one of you guys. I love you guys. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you guys. And let's go ahead and get you guys on with the rest of your night. Hope you guys enjoy this production, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Buona! You can go ahead and continue with your fireworks now.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine. Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.